What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto trained by Kisuke Urahara? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. Uzumaki Naruto was walking through the streets grumbling to himself. He was kicked out of a weapon shop for the third time today and it took everything he had to keep his temper in check. After the mission in Wave he needed to restock his supplies but no one would sell him anything. How the hell am I going to become Hokage if no one will sell me anything? He said to himself as he ignored the glares from the villagers. Although it still hurt, he was used to it and able to block it away as he thought about his last mission. His time at Wave had taught him a lot. When he just started his shinobi career as a genin he had a very childish out view of it. He thought that in order to become Hokage all he needed was to know some cool jutsu, but now he understood the shinobi world better. Although shinobi are considered weapons, they're still human with emotions. The tears in Zabuza's eyes when Haku died proved that. He also learned from Haku that true strength can come from the desire to protect those who are precious to you. While Naruto agreed with that, he was a little sad that out of an entire village there were only 4 people that could be categorized as precious to him. Iruka, the Hokage, and the Ichirakus were the only ones who have truly cared for him. He wasn't sure how to categorize Kakashi. While he seemed to have cared for him, he was still too much of a mystery for Naruto to fully understand. He would love to have Sakura as one of his precious people, but she has never given him the time of day, which hurt seeing as he had a crush on her. Sasuke was another mystery. One moment he could be an arrogant ass who enjoyed insulting him, but then he could do something like sacrifice himself in order to save him. So deep in thought he failed to notice the man in front of him until he bumped into him, causing the orange-clad ninja to fall. "Oh my, you should really watch where you're going," an amused voice said as Naruto stood up. He looked at the stranger to see a tall man with gray eyes holding a cane. His hair was light blonde, almost pale, with strands on the side framing his face and another strand between his eyes. He wore a dark green shirt and pants underneath a black coat with white diamonds on the bottom half. On his head was a dark green and white striped bucket hat that shadowed his eyes. "I know I am quite the looker, but it is rude to stare, you know," the man said before pulling out a fan to conceal his grin. Getting out of his stupor, Naruto blushed a bit before scratching the back of his head sheepishly. "Sorry about that, mister. Just never met anyone who wore so much green," he said with a grin, causing the man to chuckle. "I could very much say the same about you. You'd think it'd be illegal to wear that much orange," he stated, causing Naruto to pout. Now that was uncalled for. "Why does everyone have a problem with orange?" he asked as he crossed his arms. "No need to pout, kid. Orange is just a difficult color to pull off, but I have to say it works with you," the man said, causing Naruto to grin. "I guess an awesome color like orange only looks good on an awesome shinobi like me," he said proudly, causing the man to laugh again. "Such a cheeky brat, I like it. Tell me, what's your name?" he asked while Naruto's eyes widened. A man was talking to him in such a friendly manner without the slightest bit of hate or fear in his eyes or voice. Getting over his shock, Naruto grinned like a fox and pointed a thumb at his chest. "The name's Uzumaki Naruto, future Hokage," he declared with confidence. "Uzumaki Naruto, huh? Well, I better remember the name of a future Hokage, right? I'm Urahara Kisuke," he said as he extended his hand. Seeing this, Naruto smiled as he shook the man's offered hand. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Urahara. So Uzumaki-kun, may I ask what was on your mind? You must have been in deep thought to just walk into me," Urahara asked curiously as a frown found its way on the blonde's face. "I needed to restock on some shuriken and kunai, but none of the ninja shops I've been to will sell me anything," Naruto answered angrily. Hearing this caused Urahara to frown before he smiled cheerfully. "Well, now that makes no sense. Why would they push away a potential customer? Tell you what, you can come to my shop and get all the supplies you need," he said, surprising Naruto. "What, you own a shop?" Naruto asked hopefully. Urahara put a hand over his heart in mock hurt. "Of course I do. Why would I say I do if I didn't?" he asked, causing Naruto to grin. "Alright then, let's go," he cheered as he got ready to run in a random direction. He barely made it 2 steps before Urahara grabbed the back of his collar. "While I encourage the enthusiasm, the shop is that way," he said, pointing in the opposite direction of where Naruto was heading. "Oops, was the intelligent reply Naruto gave as he scratched the back of his head. The two of them headed in the direction where Urahara pointed as they made idle chit-chat. Naruto could honestly say this was one of the best moments of his life. He was having a real conversation with someone who didn't seem to hate him. If he were honest with himself, then he could say that this stranger he just met has treated him better than his own teammates have since the formation of Team 7. Soon they stopped in the more deserted part of Konoha in front of a building with a sign that said Urahara Shop. So what do you think? Impressive, right? I came up with the name myself. Urahara said proudly with a grin. Really? How on earth did you come up with a name like that? Naruto asked playfully. It just came to me, really. He answered as he opened the door and the two walked in. We have a customer, he called out as three people entered from a door in the back. The first was a tall, muscular man with lightly tanned skin. He had black hair with a large handlebar mustache that was connected to his long sideburns. He wore a pair of rectangular glasses, a white muscle shirt, gray pants and a blue apron. Flanking the man were two children, a boy and a girl. The boy had red hair and was wearing a white shirt with blue shorts. The girl wore a white shirt with a pink skirt with white dots on it. Her black hair that had a bit of a purple hue in it was tied into pigtails. After getting a good look at the three, Naruto took a quick glance at the shop. The shop is kinda small, but it's got a pleasant feel to it. Like it's more of a home instead of a store, he said with a smile. The moment those words left his mouth, the tall man's body went stiff as he stared at Naruto. He rigidly walked towards the young blonde who was nervous that he insulted him in some way. Naruto was completely surprised when the man caught Naruto in a bone-crushing hug. To say such kind words about our humble shop. Thank you so much, he said as tears of joy fell from his eyes. Naruto tried to speak but no words were able to escape. He felt like he would lose consciousness from the lack of oxygen. Tessai-kun, you might want to let the poor boy go, Urahara said. Listening to him, the man known as Tessai let go of the boy, causing him to fall on his back as greedily breathed in some much-needed air. You'll have to forgive him. Tessai-kun takes get pride in this shop, Urahara explained. Now then, I believe it's time for introductions. Hi, I am Tsukabishi Tessai. Tessai said with a bow. I am Tsumugiya Ururu, the girl said politely with a bow. Hanakari Jinta, the boy said plainly before looking away. Nice to meet ya. The name's Uzumaki Naruto, future Hokage. Naruto greeted, causing the boy to scoff. A blonde idiot like you, Hokage? Yay, right. Jinta taunted with a smirk. What was that, you little piece of? You heard me, blondie. Jinta interrupted, earning a fist on the head from Tessai. Jinta, that is no way to treat a customer, the muscular man reprimanded. Ururu-chan, Naruto is in need of some supplies. Why don't you help him get what he needs? Urahara suggested. Hi. The girl said quietly before she led Naruto towards the designated location in the shop. After getting everything he needed, he thanked Ururu before walking over to Urahara. How much do I owe you, Urahara? He asked, getting the attention of the older blonde. Urahara rubbed his chin in thought before his usual grin found its way on his face. Tell you what, since this is your first time shopping here, it's on the house, he said, surprising Naruto. Really? He asked, not believing what he was hearing. Yes, think of it as an initiative to visit our shop again, Urahara answered. Are you kidding? I'll do all my shopping here from now on, Naruto said happily. Today was turning out to be a great day. Excellent. It's been a pleasure doing business with you. I hope to see you here again, Urahara said as Naruto waved goodbye to the store employees before leaving to meet his team. Once the shop door closed, Tessai turned to the man clad in green. You seem to have taken a liking to the boy. Is there any particular reason? The muscular man asked. I believe I have just found myself an apprentice, Tessai-kun, Urahara answered, surprising the other occupants. Him? He looked like a total wimp, Jinta said, not impressed at all with blonde. He seemed nice, Ururu interjected, quietly adding her opinion but not wanting to upset Jinta. Really? That is a bit of a surprise, Tessai said with a raised eyebrow. I sense much potential in him, he simply said before walking towards the back of the shop. Team 7 training grounds. Naruto was sitting down leaning against a tree with a frown. Earlier today he had a good time talking with Urahara, but now there was only one word to describe how he felt at the moment: bored. He was sitting with his teammates waiting for their tardy sensei. Sasuke was doing his favorite pastime of brooding while Sakura stared at him with nothing but admiration. This was a common occurrence. Kakashi would be 2 hours late, Sasuke would sulk around and Sakura would openly drool around him with hearts in her eyes. "Kami, if you love me then you'd send Kakashi here now before I lose my mind from watching these two." He inwardly groaned. Kami must have felt pity for the blonde because Kakashi suddenly appeared in front of the genin via Shunshin. "Hello guys. Sorry I'm late but I was on my way here when I noticed my socks didn't match so I had to go back home and change them," Kakashi said as he scratched the back of his head sheepishly. "Liar," Sakura yelled as she pointed an accusatory finger at their sensei. The other three winced at the sheer volume of her voice. "Hate to break it to you sensei but you're not even wearing socks." Naruto deadpanned. "Let's not focus on the details, okay?" Kakashi asked with a dismissive wave of the hand causing the three genin to sweat drop. "Anyway, I have some exciting news," Kakashi said with an eye smile gaining their attention. "What is it sensei?" Sakura asked curiously. "I have signed the three of you up for the Chunin exams," he said, surprising them. Once the words sunk in, they each had a different reaction. Sasuke had a smirk on his face, confident that he would pass. Sakura looked hesitant and Naruto. "Alright, once I become a Chunin that will be one step closer to Hokage," he shouted with a grin. Kakashi chuckled at the blonde enthusiasm but Sasuke scoffed. "Please, like Adobe, like you could become a Chunin let alone Hokage," the Uchiha said, earning a glare from Naruto. "What was that, Teme? Why don't you bring your emo ass over here and I'll show you which one of us is closer to Chunin," Naruto yelled, earning a punch from Sakura. "Naruto baka, shut up. Don't you talk to Sasuke-kun like that," she shouted. Naruto stood back up and dusted himself before looking at his crush. "But Sakura-chan," he started it. "If he didn't have that stick up his ass then maybe he wouldn't be such a Teme." Naruto whined only to earn another fist from her. "Shut it, baka. Kami, you're so annoying," she said, exaggerated. Kakashi could only sigh as he watched the antics of his students. He cleared his throat trying in order to get their attention. "Now then, the exams are in 10 days so we will have to prepare you guys," he said, gaining their attention. "How are you going to do that, Kakashi-sensei? Are you finally going to teach us some kick-ass jutsu?" Naruto asked excitingly. His excitement deflated when Kakashi shook his head negatively. "I'm afraid not. Teaching you a new jutsu for the exam would be useless unless you've mastered it completely. We don't have enough time so I'll have to teach you some exercises that will overcome your weaknesses. Depending on how fast you are I might be able to add in a simple jutsu or two but nothing fancy," Kakashi explained, getting a nod of understanding from the other three. "So what's the plan, sensei?" Sakura asked, the others nodding, also wanting to know. "Well, Sakura, I'm give you some scrolls to have a better understanding about genjutsu. If you understand the mechanics you might actually be able to learn one or two before the exam because of your excellent chakra control," he explained, causing Sakura to smile. She looked over towards Sasuke hoping he was impressed but deflated when she saw him look uninterested. "Sasuke, since you have just unlocked your Sharingan you and I will be training on how to access it easier and how to properly use it," Kakashi said, getting a nod from the Uchiha. Although he wished he could copy some of Kakashi's jutsu, he would settle for this, for now. Besides, if he can use the Sharingan properly then he can just copy some jutsu during the exam. "What about me, sensei?" Naruto asked, wondering what kind of training he would get. "For you, Naruto, you will continue with the tree climbing exercise. Do that as much and as long as you can. Your biggest weakness is your chakra control so hopefully this will help," Kakashi explained as silence filled the training field. Naruto blinked a few times as he registered what his sensei just told me. What do you mean I have to do the tree climbing exercise? How come they get to learn something new while I'm stuck climbing trees?" Naruto asked angrily, causing Kakashi to sigh. "Like I said, your chakra control is the worst on the team. Learning something new won't make a difference if you waste too much chakra. I'm sorry if this upsets you but it's for the best," he reasoned in a bored tone. "Or maybe you're just too lazy to teach all three of us so you're ditching me," the blonde shot back. His outburst earned him a fist from Sakura. "Shut up, baka. Who cares, it's not like could learn anything useful anyway," she said, completely ignoring the fact that she only knew the basic academy jutsu while Naruto knew the shadow clone technique. For once she's right. Adobe like you should quit wasting their time. Sasuke said with an arrogant smirk. Hearing this, Sakura practically fainted after hearing her crush agree with her. Hearing the way his teammates talked to him, Naruto felt his anger grow. Not wanting to deal with this, he looked at his sensei. While I would love to stay here and receive more insults, I should probably work on my chakra control since I'm such a terrible shinobi. Are we done with this meeting, or are we going to make more jokes at my expense? He said in a cold tone that surprised everyone. No, here's your sign-up sheet. It has all the information you'll need, and make sure you're not late. He said with an eye smile, causing Naruto to snort. Coming from you, that's rich. He said sarcastically before snatching the form out of Kakashi's hand and leaving his teammates to do his own training. Streets of Konoha. Naruto was walking through the streets and it was clear that he was not in a good mood. Looks like he had to train himself, alone, just like his childhood. Running a hand through his hair, he looked at the sky, trying to think of some options. Maybe he could get Iruka to help him out a bit before he shook that thought out of his head. Iruka was too busy with his duties as an academy teacher. Shaking his head, he stuffed his hands into his pockets until he heard a crinkling sound. Frowning in confusion, he pulled it out to find a note. Uzumaki-kun, if you are ever in need of some training, feel free to stop by the shop. It would be a pleasure to train the future Hokage. Our doors are always open, so stop by anytime. Your handsome friend, Urahara. How the hell did he get this in my pocket without me noticing? Naruto asked himself, surprised, before he reread the note. Training? Urahara was offering to train him? With a grin, Naruto ran towards the shop. He didn't know what Urahara could teach him, but he was willing to take all the help he could get. Arriving at the shop, he opened it with a grin. Hey Urahara, I got your note, he called out as the man in green stepped out of the back room. Uzumaki-kun, what a surprise. I didn't expect you to arrive so soon, he said pleasantly. I got here as soon as I found your note. How did you sneak it in my pockets anyhow? Naruto asked curiously while Urahara opened his fan to hide his face. I am a man of many talents, Uzumaki-kun, he answered simply. Were you serious about training me? He asked hopefully. Of course. In fact, I'm looking forward to it, Urahara said as he shut his fan, causing Naruto to jump in joy. That's great. I was worried I would have to train myself since my sensei ditched me, he exclaimed, causing Urahara to frown. What do you mean? He asked as a scowl found its way on the younger boy's face. Kakashi's sensei said he signed us up for the Chunin exams and that we had to get ready. He gave Sakura-chan some tips on genjutsu and he's going to teach Sasuke how to use his Sharingan. The only thing he told me to do was work on the tree climbing exercise some more because my control sucks. He ranted as he crossed his arms. Urahara had a thoughtful expression on his face before he grew a mischievous smirk. Tell me something, Uzumaki-kun. Do you want to beat this Sasuke and show your sensei that you're a better shinobi? He asked. I would love nothing more than to kick that Demi's ass, he declared, making Urahara's smirk widen. Well then, if you agree to be my apprentice, then I can guarantee you will be strong enough to defeat him, he said confidently. Awesome. Are you going to teach me some killer jutsu? He asked with childlike excitement, causing Urahara to laugh. I'm afraid I can't teach you any jutsu, Uzumaki-kun. To be honest, I don't know a single jutsu myself, he said as he opened his fan to hide his grin. It took all his willpower to not laugh at Naruto as he face faulted. Don't know a single jutsu? Then what the hell can you teach me? He asked angrily, thinking that Urahara was playing some joke on him. Now calm down. Let me ask you something. You said that your sensei is teaching this Sasuke how to use his Sharingan. Do you know how the Sharingan works? He asked as Naruto adopted a thinking pose. It lets him copy any jutsu he sees, right? He asked. Well, there's more to it, but yes, that's one of its main functions, Urahara said, but he could tell Naruto wasn't following him. Okay, so what does that have to do with anything? Why would you want to learn a jutsu just so your teammate can copy it? He asked as Naruto's eyes widened. Okay, I get what you're saying. So what am I going to do? Naruto asked, determined to find a way to beat Sasuke. What I am going to teach you is not jutsu. I am willing to teach you some powerful techniques and they will be impossible to copy with the Sharingan, he said, shocking the younger blonde. Really? Quote, yes, in fact the only person who can learn these will be you, the shop owner explained. Really? Why me? Because of your seal, he said, surprising Naruto. You know about the seal? he asked quietly as he avoided eye contact. He looked up though when he felt a hand on his shoulder. He saw Urahara giving him a small smile instead on his usual grin. "I know about it and I could care less about what you hold," he said, shocking the boy. "Really? Yes, so are you still willing to learn from me? I should warn you, if you chose to learn this power you won't be able to use chakra anymore," he warned, shocking the blonde. "What do you mean I won't be able to use chakra?" he asked. "Sometimes in order to gain something new you must sacrifice something old," Urahara said seriously. "But how can I use jutsu? How will I become Hokage?" "Calm down. I'm not saying you will powerless. You will gain a unique power. Think of it as a Kekkei Genkei. Instead of chakra you will use a different source of power," he explained. Naruto was silent for a while as he thought about Urahara's words. "Will this really make me stronger?" he asked. "I guarantee it," he answered confidently. With a determined fire burning in his eyes, Naruto grinned as he looked at Urahara. "Well then we better get started, Urahara-sensei," he said, causing the man to grin. "Well then, to begin let me tell you the basics about Ryotsu and Rairyoko. Then I'll teach you how to use a sword. Come along, we will be quite busy for the next few days," he said as he led Naruto towards the back to begin his training. Night before Chunin exams. "Well, Urahara-sensei, I better head home," Naruto said as he walked around the shop getting some last-minute supplies for the exam. "I believe you're right. Tomorrow is the big day," Urahara said as he rung up the price. Paying for the supplies, Naruto grinned at his sensei. "Yup, and after the training I've done I'll become Chunin in no time," he declared confidently, earning a chuckle from the man. "It's a good thing you have that confidence, Naruto-kun. Remember that a warrior's greatest enemy can be their own hesitance. You don't have to worry about that. Man, it's been 10 days since I've seen my team. Can't wait to show them the new me," Naruto said, thinking about his teammates' reaction once they see his new abilities. "I bet their reactions will be priceless," Urahara said with mischievous smile. "Yeah, just wait until I kick Sasuke's ass," Naruto agreed as he headed for the door. "Hey guys, I'm leaving. The exams are tomorrow so I don't know when I'll see you again," he called out. Hearing this, 3 more people entered the room they were in. "We will miss your company, Naruto. Good luck, but with all your training I doubt you'll need it," Tessai said. "Thanks a lot, Tessai. Don't worry, I'll visit as soon as I can," he told the muscular man who helped train him along Urahara. "I bet you will, freeloader," Jinta teased with a grin. During the days the two sparred, and the more Naruto progressed the more Jinta liked the older boy. Despite that, the two liked to tease each other. "Whatever, shrimp, you know you'll miss me," Naruto shot back. "Dream on, blondie," Jinta scoffed. Naruto was about to speak but a quiet voice spoke out first. "Good luck, Oni-chan," Ururu said shyly. She grew fond of the blonde's company and Naruto honestly say he felt the same way. "Thanks a lot, Ururu-chan," he said as he ruffled her hair, causing her to smile. Naruto took one more look at the group of people who he could truly call friends. He had more fun here the past few days with these guys than he ever did during his time at the academy and with his genin team combined. Walking out the door, he took a deep breath as he looked at the night sky. He was about to make his way home before a hand on his shoulder stopped him. He turned to see Urahara had followed him. "What is it, sensei?" he asked curiously. "I just thought I should give you a final piece of advice before the exams," he explained, causing Naruto to raise his eyebrow. "And that would be? When you hear its name, do not hesitate to speak it," Urahara said, pointing to the sword that hung at his hip. During the first day of training, Urahara gave Naruto a sword called a Zanpakuto. Urahara said that when the right time came he would be able to unlock the full power of his sword and himself. Although he did not fully understand his words, he believed his sensei. "Relax, sensei, I got it," he reassured, causing the man to grin. "Of course. Well then I suggest you get some rest. Tomorrow your hard work will pay off," Urahara said as he went back inside his shops. Nodding his head, Naruto began to walk through the streets. He wanted to make one more stop before going home. Finally arriving at his destination, Naruto sat down as he overlooked the nighttime view of the village. Currently sitting at the top of the Hokage monument, he mentally prepared himself for tomorrow's events. "You can come out," he called out suddenly. He heard a shuffling sound and turned his head to look over his shoulder. Standing behind him he saw a boy around his age. He had short, spiky red hair. His eyes, that had black rings around them, were green and he had no distinctive eyebrows. Above his left eye was the kanji for love. You were able to sense my presence. Impressive, he said in a monotone voice, but Naruto only shrugged. Maybe, can I help you or are you just here for sightseeing? He asked, turning around fully. Looking at the forehead protector, Naruto noticed that the boy in front of him had to be from Suna. I do not understand why, but mother is very interested in you, he said as Naruto raised an eyebrow before he smirked. Tell her I'm flattered, but since she's already a mother she's probably too old for me. He joked but was met with absolute silence. Okay, so you don't have a sense of humor, he muttered to himself. Tell me, who are you? The Suna boy asked. Uzumaki Naruto, he said plainly. And you would be? Sabaku no Gaara, he answered as his unblinking eyes continued to stare him down. I'm guessing you're here for the Chunin exams? Naruto guessed, getting a nod from the redhead. Yes, would I be correct in saying you two will be taking them? Yup, and I plan on passing with flying colors, he answered confidently. I see. I look forward to facing you, Uzumaki, Gaara said before he vanished in a whirlwind of sand. Gaara, huh? You're definitely a strong one, better keep an eye on you, Naruto said to himself as he left the monument in order to go home. Day of the exams, Ninja Academy. Uchiha Sasuke was standing in front of the academy with his teammate Haruno Sakura. Sakura kept swooning over the last Uchiha, but he chose to ignore her while they waited for the last member of their team. They haven't seen him in 10 days, but Sasuke didn't really care. The only thing that mattered was that he was more proficient with his Sharingan. Seeing him ignore her, Sakura sighed before cheering herself up by doing her second favorite activity, after drooling over Sasuke, of course, complaining about Naruto. Where is that baka? He's going to make us late, she screeched, causing Sasuke to flinch. Maybe you should have used these 10 days to learn how to control the volume of your voice, a voice said. They turned to see their teammate approaching them, but with a new wardrobe. Instead of his usual orange jumpsuit, he now wore black Anbu pants, a long-sleeved black shirt with a large red Uzumaki spiral centered in the back and a smaller one over his heart. He also wore an orange sash around his waist that held a sword over his hip. After taking in his new appearance, his words registered, earning a scowl from the pink-haired girl. What did you say? She yelled. You didn't hear me? I guess your own yelling blew out your eardrums, Naruto said nonchalantly with a shrug of his shoulders. Who do you think you are talking to me like that? She shouted angrily, not liking his change in attitude. Sasuke watched silently, also wondering with the change in Naruto. The blonde stared at her a few moments before turning away. Whatever, let's go, he said as he made his way inside the academy. He should have known they wouldn't change. After spending time at the Urahara shop, he realized just how poorly his team treated him while he just let it happen. Well, if they thought things would remain the same, they were sadly mistaken. What do you think happened to him, Sasuke-kun? Sakura asked, but like usual the Uchiha ignored her in favor of entering the building with Sakura following him, sulking at being ignored, again. They were walking through the hallways and noticed a large crowd. There's a slight disturbance here, most likely a genjutsu, Naruto thought to himself as his team observed what was happening. Two kids stood in front of the door and by the looks of things they weren't letting anyone pass. Just let us through so we can take the exams, a girl with brown hair tied in two buns pleaded, only to be pushed away by one of the two guarding the door. That was a very unyouthful thing to do, a boy wearing a green spandex suit said. He had a bowl cut and his eyebrows were massive. The boys snorted before punching the green spandex boy, who fell to the ground. Rookies like you have no place here, one of the boys said. So why don't you save yourself the trouble and run back home? The other added with a smug smile. Okay, drop the act, Sasuke said, drawing attention to himself. What act? One of the boys asked. This pathetic genjutsu. Drop it so we can go to the third floor, the Uchiha said arrogantly as the crowd started to murmur with each other. So cool, Sakura squealed with hearts in her eyes while Naruto groaned. And you're supposed to be the rookie of the year, he said in exaggeration, causing Sasuke to narrow his eyes. What's that supposed to mean, Dobi? He asked, annoyed. It means you just told our competition how to advance. We're shinobi and yet you just helped an entire hallway of enemies. Bravo, Mr. Rookie of the Year, he said sarcastically, causing a few members of the crowd to snicker. Naruto, you baka, how dare you? Sakura began, but Naruto held up a hand stopping her. Yeah, how dare I make fun of his royal emo-ness," he said as he made his way through the hall. Before he climbed the stairs he turned to the two guards. "See you later Katetsu, Azumo," he called out as they burst into a cloud of smoke. The smoke cleared revealing two adults. "See you later Naruto," Azumo said. "Yeah, hopefully when you're done you can entertain us with a prank or two," Katetsu added, causing Naruto to laugh. "I'm sure I can think of something," he said before he turned away, his teammates following. "Hey wait," a voice said. They turned to see the kid in green spandex walking towards them with his teammates on his trail. "What?" Sasuke grunted, still annoyed that Naruto made a fool of him. The kid ignored him and looked right at Sakura, who was unnerved. "Hi, I'm Rock Lee. It's a pleasure to meet you," he said, smiling before giving her a thumbs up and smiling. "Would you please go on a date with me?" "No way you freak," she screeched, appalled, causing Lee's shoulders to slump. Naruto watched them impassively until he felt like he was being watched himself. Turning, he saw the girl with two buns from earlier standing next to a boy with long brown hair and white pupil-less eyes. "Can I help you?" he asked, bored. "What's your name?" the boy with no pupils asked. "I'm no one important, just an average genin trying to make it to Chunin," he said uninterestedly. Not really caring, he made his way for the exam room. "You guys stay here and have fun with your new friends. I'll wait for you up ahead," he said, not bothering to wait for an answer. The last thing he heard was Lee challenging Sasuke to a spar. Now in front of the door he leaned against it and closed his eyes, waiting for his teammates. Feeling the presence of two familiar people, he opened his eyes and was greeted with the sight of his green-faced teammates. "What the hell happened to you?" he asked. Sasuke refused to speak, so he turned towards Sakura. "Eyebrows, spandex, sunsets," she said, unable to form complete sentences. He looked at her questionably and took one final look at Sasuke, noticing a bruise on his cheek. "I'm guessing that guy kicked your ass," he said, causing the Uchiha to scowl, but he did not say anything, confirming Naruto's thoughts. "Well, now looks like you're all here," a voice said. They turned to see Kakashi standing by them with his common eye smile. "What are you doing here, sensei?" Sakura asked. "Aren't I allowed to wish my adorable team of genin good luck before their exam?" he asked in mock hurt before examining them. "I know Sasuke's ready for this. What about you, Sakura? How were those notes on genjutsu?" he asked while Sakura fidgeted nervously. They really helped, sensei," she lied. Truth was, she never even glanced at the scrolls Kakashi gave her, but in her defense she was very busy. She bought a couple of new outfits and hair care products, hoping to impress Sasuke. Unfortunately for her, she failed every try. "That's good. What about you, Naruto?" he asked as he looked at Blonde, noticing his new wardrobe. Naruto didn't answer. He stared at Kakashi for a few seconds before shrugging. His team stared at him, not used to him being silent. Usually by now he would be bragging about how strong he got. "I noticed the sword you're carrying. Why the sudden interest?" Kakashi asked, trying to get a response. Again Naruto stared at Kakashi before sighing. "While I'm flattered you'd pretend to take a sudden interest in my training, sensei, I don't want to be late for my exams," he said before passing Kakashi and entering the exam room. His team stood there shocked by his new behavior. Snapping out of hit, Sasuke followed Naruto into the exam room, shortly followed by Sakura. Kakashi stood there and thought, is he holding a grudge because I decided to teach Sasuke how to use his Sharingan? Oh well, I'll make it up to him with some training after the exams, he said to himself before walking away to the Jonin lounge. Exam room. The moment Team 7s entered the exam room they were shocked. In front of them was a sea of genin from different villages. All these people, they look incredibly strong. Are they all here for the exam? Sakura panicked inwardly. Maybe she should have taken her training a little bit more seriously. What was she thinking? She knew her precious Sasuke would save her if she was in trouble. There are some strong ones here, finally a chance to test myself, Sasuke thought with a smirk. I'll finally be able to show everyone that the dead last is gone. Just wait, Naruto thought. Although he looked bored on the outside, inside he was shaking with excitement. Team 7's thoughts were interrupted by a loud squeal. Sasuke-kun, you're here, an excited voice before a yellow and purple flash ran towards them and latched itself on Sasuke. Seeing this caused Sakura to scowl. What do you think you're doing, Ino pig? Get your hands off Sasuke-kun. Sakura shouted at the blonde girl who was strangling Sasuke with her hug. She looked at Sakura with a bored expression. Oh, it's you, Forehead. Can't you see that Sasuke-kun and I are busy catching up? She asked while Sasuke tried to escape her grasp. You guys are here too? Troublesome, a lazy voice said. They looked to see Shikamaru and Choji walking towards them. Looks like the gang's all here, a loud voice added. A few feet from the Kiba, Shino and Hinata made their way over. I'm actually glad you're here, Sasuke. Now I can kick your ass, Kiba declared. Trying to sound tough, dog? Tough luck because no one believes your act, Sasuke said with a smirk causing Kiba to glare. Maybe we should see. Calm down, Kiba. Hinata stuttered, not wanting to make a scene. Shino, who observed the others silently, turned his attention to Naruto, who hadn't acknowledged any of them. Interesting, the last time he saw the blonde he practically demanded their attention, but now it looked like he could care less. Naruto-san, Shino greeted with a nod, causing the others to look at the blonde, shocked that he's been so quiet. They were even more surprised when they saw him wearing something besides his usual orange jumpsuit. Shino, good to see you again. Naruto greeted with a small smile and nod. He didn't know Shino that well, but he never once made fun of Naruto, so he was okay in his books. Geez, Naruto, you look different, Choji commented while Kiba snorted. The dead last is probably trying to look cooler to hide the fact that he sucks. He taunted with a smirk, trying to make the blonde lose his temper. He felt a shiver run down his spine when he saw the blonde cold smirk and emotionless eyes staring at him, as if he was looking at his very soul. I look forward to proving you wrong, mutt, Naruto said calmly. Would you rookies do us all a favor and shut up? Someone said. The said rookies turned to see an older boy with silver hair wearing glasses approach them. And just who are you supposed to be? Shikamaru asked, although it sounded like he could care less. The name's Kabuto. And here's a piece of advice. If you want to survive, take this seriously. Right now you're acting like this is a school reunion. I'd like the shinobi you are instead of a couple of little kids. He scolded in an annoyed tone. Who the hell do you think you are talking to us like that? Ino asked, aggravated. I'm a more experienced shinobi who's just trying to save you. He shot back smoothly. And how exactly are you saving us? Sakura asked incredulously. If you'd look around you'd see you're attracting some attention. He replied, causing the others to look around the room, seeing what he was talking about. Almost every genin in the room were glaring at them. See? Everyone's a bit on the edge because of the exams. If you continue to be as loud as you were, someone might snap and beat the crap out of you, Kabuto said with a smirk as he watched the rookies take a step back. He was about to continue, but an incredible wave of killer intent filled the air. Kabuto and the other Konoha genin looked around for the source and were surprised to see it was coming from Naruto. While Kabuto was talking with the others, Naruto decided to scope out the competition. Looking around, his eyes met with a pair of familiar green eyes. Gaara was also in the room and his eyes were staring directly at him. The two of them stared at each other, releasing their killer intent, which was unconsciously affecting the others in the room. Smirking at the Suna genin, Naruto pointed his thumb to his neck and made a cutting motion which shocked Gaara's two teammates. Then Naruto saw something on Gaara's usual blank face, a smile. But it wasn't a happy smile, it was a psychotic one. Naruto turned away to see the others looking at him with their eyes widened. What? Is there something on my face? He asked as he felt his face causing them to face fault. What do you mean what? What the hell was that? Kiba yelled. I have no idea what you're talking about, doggy, Naruto said with a shrug before turning to Kabuto. You look like you know how things work around here, he commentated, causing the silver-haired teen to smirk. Well, this isn't my first time taking the exams, he explained. Really? How many times have you taken it? Sakura asked curiously. This is my 7th, he said, surprising them. So then, you suck? Kiba asked, causing Kabuto to sweat drop. No, it means the exams are far more difficult than you thought, he explained a bit defensively. But then he pulled out a deck of cards. On the plus side, I've been able to gather quite a bit of information. What are those? Choji asked, not understanding the point of the cards. These are shinobi skill cards. They can tell me a little bit about anyone in this room, he said proudly. Anyone? Sasuke asked with a hint of interest. Yay, why do you have someone in mind? He asked. Rock Lee of Konoha, he Uchiha said. Sabaku no Gaara of Suna, Naruto added, making the others look at him curiously. You know their names? That takes away the challenge, Kabuto said as he shuffled the deck before pulling 2 random cards out. Focusing his chakra, the card was soon filled with information on the two mentioned genin. First up we have Rock Lee. Teammates are Hyuga Neji and Tenten with Maeda Guy as their sensei. He completed 20 D rank missions and 11 C rank. His taijutsu is off the charts. This will be his first year taking the exams. Nothing else worth mentioning. Now then, Sabaku no Gara. Since he's from a foreign village, I have less info on him. I don't have much on his techniques, but he has completed 8 C rank missions and 1 B rank. The most interesting thing is that he's come back from every mission without a scratch. Looks like you chose the wrong shinobi to mess with Blondie, Kabuto said as he placed the cards back into his deck. He looked at Naruto expecting him to be nervous but was surprised to see a feral grin on his face. I knew he was strong. I look forward to facing Yugara, he said to himself, but the others heard him. How do you know Asuna shinobi anyway? Shikamaru asked. Had a little run-in with him last night. For some reason he decided to target me. Naruto explained with a shrug. Why would he target a dobi like you? Sasuke scoffed. I'm the dobi? I'm not the one who told everyone about the Genjutsu Teme. Naruto shot back, earning a glare from the Uchiha. Don't talk to Sasuke-kun like that, baka. Sakura yelled in defense. Naruto was about to speak, but a loud explosion in the front of the room stopped him. The cloud of smoke revealed an entire group of adults. Would everyone please shut the hell up? The man in the middle asked, although with the tone he spoke with it was more of a demand. He wore a black trench coat and a black bandana. The man looked at the group of genin and most of them shivered underneath his gaze. Sorry for the wait. My name is Morino Ibiki, the proctor of the first part of the exam. Everyone hand in your application and you will receive a seating assignment card. You will do to that seat. Once everyone is seated, we can begin the written part of the exam. Ibiki instructed. Hearing this caused Naruto to go stiff. What the hell? A fucking written exam? He panicked inwardly, although he was able to keep his appearance in check. He handed his application and sat down at his designated seat before letting his head crash down on the desk with a thud. After all that training with Urahara-sensei and a fucking paper test might beat me. If I fail because of his jinta will never let me live it down. He groaned. Naruto-kun, a shy voice next to him said. He looked at his right to see Hinata seated next to him. Let's do our best. The Hyuga stuttered with a blush. Naruto blinked a few times before releasing a sigh, accepting this as another obstacle he would have overcome. Yay, guess you're right, Hinata. He agreed, making her flush even more. Now before we begin there will be some rules. I will only say this once, so listen carefully. Ibiki began. Rule 1. There are 10 questions on the quiz and each of you will start with 10 points. For every question you get wrong you will lose 1 point. Rule 2. Even though this is a written test, it is still a team event. Your total scores will be added at the end. Rule 3. If you get caught cheating, then you and your teammates will lose 2 points. Final rule. If one person on the team loses all their points, then the entire team is disqualified. He finished, causing Naruto's head to fall. Kami, put me in front of a dangerous shinobi and I'll fight, no problem. Put me in front of a test. That's just beyond cruel and unusual punishment. He cried mentally. You have 1 hour? Begin? He shouted, causing the genin to turn their sheets and start. Naruto sluggishly turned his paper and began to skim the contents, hoping to find at least one question he could answer. Well, now, I'm screwed. I don't even know what some of these words mean. He thought with his chin in his hand. As time went by, the other genin in the room began to use their techniques in order to gather the information necessary to answer the test. Refusing to give up, Naruto began to devise a plan, but it required perfect timing if he wanted to do it without getting caught. I can cheat 5 times before I lose all my points, but it's better safe than sorry. He thought to himself as he observed the room occupants waiting for the moment to strike. 35 minutes into the exam it happened. Number 32, 5 strikes, you're out of here. One of the proctors said. The genin who was accused stood up and glared at the proctor. What do you mean I cheated? You don't have any proof. The genin shouted, only to have the proctor move at great speeds. He slammed the genin into the wall with his forearm. Listen well, Gaki. There's a reason why we were chosen as proctors. And it's because we don't make mistakes. Whine all you want, it doesn't change the fact that you got caught. Now get your teammates and get out of here. The proctor said as he let go of the genin. Now, Bakudo number 1. Sigh. Restrain. he thought as he pointed his index and middle fingers at the proctor. The proctor was about to make his way back to his seat when his arms suddenly locked behind him. "What the hell?" he shouted, surprised as he tried to move his arms but couldn't. His sudden outburst and struggle caught the attention of everyone in the room except for Ibiki, who was watching the distracted genin discreetly. His eyes landed on Naruto, who tapped the shoulder of the genin at his left. "Inamori. Forced slumber," he muttered as he placed his open palm in front of his face. Soon the genin's head lulled as he fell unconscious. Checking to make sure they were still distracted with the restrained proctor, he switched papers with the genin he knocked out and wrote his name on instead. Once done, he cancelled his earlier technique and the proctor was able to move his arms freely. "Hey, getting caught can definitely kill you, but if you can make a distraction to draw attention somewhere else." Naruto trailed off with smirk. "What was that?" someone asked. "No clue. One moment I was walking to my seat, the next thing I know I can't move my arms." The proctor said, confused. "Oi, proctors. This guy just fell asleep and now he won't wake up. I think he's hurt or something." Naruto called out, sounding surprised. Ibiki smirked as he walked over there. He looked over the unconscious genin before looking at the blonde. "He's fine, just unconscious. Guess we'll have to send him and his eme away," he said before the fallen genin's teammates carried him away, wondering what happened. "I have no idea what that blonde gaki did, but whatever it was good," Ibiki thought. He glanced at the clock to see it was time for the final question. "Alright, get ready. It's time for the final question," Ibiki shouted, getting everyone's attention. "But before we begin, I'm adding one more rule." "Damn it, another rule?" Naruto shouted in his mind. "Alright then, I'm giving you a choice. Will you accept or reject the next question?" he asked, confusing the others. "What happens if we chose to reject it?" Tamari asked. "If you chose to reject the question, then you forfeit all your points and fail automatically. Not only that, but your teammates will fail alongside you," Ibiki explained, shocking them. "What? If we fail, then why would anyone Hozo reject the question?" someone shouted. "I was getting to that. If you try to answer the last question but get it wrong, you will fail and never be able to apply for the Chunin exams again," he said as the room became silent. "You can't be serious. There are people here who have taken the exams multiple times," Kiba shouted, causing Ibiki to smirk. "Maybe, but I didn't make the rules last year. I guess you're just unlucky because this year I am," he stated, causing Kiba to shut up, though he was glaring at him. "Anyone who wants to quit, raise your hands. When your number is confirmed, you and your teammates can leave the room and try again next year," Ibiki continued. The room was in a tense silence before genin began to raise their hands. Slowly the number of occupants diminished. Ibiki looked at Naruto to see him staring right back at him. Remembering his little stunt earlier, he decided to test the blonde. "What about you, blondie? You're not nervous or anything, are you?" he asked with a malicious smirk. Naruto just looked at him before giving the man a smirk of his own. "The day I put this forehead protector on, I swore my life to this village. If I'm willing to risk my life, then what makes you think I'll be afraid of a little question? As far as I'm concerned, this question is just an enemy, and what kind of enemy gives its target the choice to run?" he said, placing his hands behind his head in a relaxed manner, his eyes never once leaving Ibiki's. "Hey, looks like that plan backfired." Not only is he not afraid, but his little speech seemed to have calmed the others' nerves. "Looks like I'll have to pass them," Ibiki thought to himself as he examined the other occupants, seeing that their nervousness was gone. "I'll give you one more warning, quit while you're ahead," he said in a final attempt to intimidate them. "Take your warning and shove it." "I'm not going anywhere," Naruto said, grinning. "Oh really? In that case I only have one thing to say, you pass," Ibiki said with a grin. "What do you mean we pass? What about the final question?" Sakura asked, confused. "I mean that everyone remaining in this room has passed. And as for the last question, there isn't any," Ibiki answered. "So what was the point of scaring us like that?" Tamari shouted. "The goal of the first 9 questions was to observe your information gathering abilities. If you are caught in the real world, then the consequences are a bit more severe than simply failing a test," he said as he took off his bandana, revealing multiple scars and burn marks. "The final question was to test whether or not you had the guts to continue on despite the dangers up ahead. In the future you will receive missions that could be impossible for you to refuse," he explained as he put his bandana back on. "Once more, you have all passed the first stage and I wish you luck in the second part." He finished as a black blur shot through the window. Kunai flew through the air, spreading out the blur to reveal a banner that said, "The second examiner, the Insingle Mitarashi Anko." "It's way too early for you to celebrate. I'm the second examiner Mitarashi Anko," a woman with purple hair shouted. The room went quiet as they stared at her wide-eyed. They just finished the first part of the exam and they were already pushed into the second. Mitarashi Anko led the group of Chunin hopeful to the location of the second exam. When they arrived, the younger shinobi just stared. "This is where the second stage of the area will be held. Welcome to Training Ground 44, or you can call it by its other name, the Forest of Death," Anko said ominously, causing some of the genin to shiver. Right in front of them was a dangerous-looking forest surrounded by a large metal fence. "It looks kinda creepy," Sakura muttered as she fidgeted nervously. Sasuke and Naruto said nothing as they looked straight ahead, making Sakura frown. She could expect the silence from Sasuke, but Naruto would usually say something to comfort her, but he didn't even spare her a single glance. Now that she thought about it, Naruto barely said anything to her, let alone asking her out, which was always a good ego boost even though she would never agree to one of his invitations. Of course it's kinda creepy. With a name like the Forest of Death, it comes with the territory, don't you think? Anko taunted. She looked around the group to see her taunted was unnerving many of them, but when her eyes landed on Naruto she frowned. The blonde didn't look the least bit fazed. As if sensing her eyes on him, he smirked. "You can try and scare us all you want, but it will take more than a few words to get to me," Naruto said, making Anko narrow her eyes before she smirked. "Faster than you can blink." Anko pulled out a kunai and threw it at Naruto. The blonde tilted his head, letting it fly right by him, leaving a small cut on his cheek. He looked at Anko only to see she was missing. "Pretty confident, aren't you?" a voice asked from behind him. He glanced over his shoulder and saw Anko standing there. "It's always people like you who die first," she said as she leaned over his shoulder and licked the blood that was coming from his cut. "How wasteful, spilling all this rich and delicious blood," she added as she began to lap at the blood. Naruto smirked as he gently stroked her cheek. "Well, if it's as delicious as you say, it would be a shame to waste it. Drink up as much as you want," he said calmly. Many of the genin blushed at the strange yet erotic scene in front of him. "How kind of you," Anko said before she felt a shift in the air. Quickly pulling out another kunai, she turned around and pressed it around a long tongue that held her previously thrown one. "I believe you dropped this," a shinobi from Kusagakure said. "Village hidden in the grass." "Oh, thank you," Anko said innocently, as if she didn't have a kunai pressed against the other's tongue. The grass ninja did not move though, she simply stared at the two of them with an odd gleam in her eyes. "Unless you want to die, I suggest you move," Anko said, annoyed. That seemed to have snapped the grass ninja back to her senses. "I'm sorry, but you and I are kind of the same. The sight of fresh blood drives me a bit crazy," she explained as she walked back to her team. Hearing this made Anko blink and grin. "Well, if that's the reason why, I guess I can't blame you," Anko said as she watched the grass ninja carefully. Naruto watched the scene quietly, feeling something off about the grass ninja. "That one is strong, but there's something weird about her chakra. It's much darker than a normal genin's should be," he thought before he heard the loud voice of Anko. "Alright then, before we begin I have to give you something," she shouted, gaining everyone's attention. She reached into her trench coat and pulled out a stack of paper, confusing the others. "I'll need every one of you to sign these consent forms," she stated. "Why do we have to sign something like that?" Sakura asked, but gulped when she saw a mischievous grin grow on Anko's face before he looked right at the pink-haired girl. "That way if you die, I can't be blamed. You wouldn't want little Olmi to get in trouble, would you?" she asked innocently, causing a few genin to grow nervous. Naruto rolled his eyes before grabbing one of the forms and signing it without hesitation. "Well, if it prevents you from getting in trouble, guess I'll do it," he said as he handed the signed form back to her. The others, not wanting to be outdone, followed Naruto's lead and signed their forms too. "Now that that's been settled, I'll explain the second exam. It's pretty much a survival test. Each of the teams here will receive one scroll. Half of you will get a heaven scroll while the other half gets an earth scroll. In order to advance, you will need to hold on to your scroll and get the other scroll you need. Once you have both, you bring them to the tower at the center of the forest," Anko explained as the words sunk into the genin's heads. "So at most, only half the teams here can pass," Sakura stated. "You got it," And there's also a time limit. You have exactly 5 days to fulfill your objective, she said, surprising them. You expect us to live in Hat Forest for 5 days? Ino shouted. What are we supposed to do for food? A horrified Choji asked. That's your problem, not mine. You're shinobi, so a simple camp out shouldn't be too difficult. As for food, this forest is full of edible things. Then again, it has man-eating animals, dangerous insects and poisonous plants, so I'd be careful if I were you. Anko said nonchalantly, causing Ino and Choji's head to slump. Now that I've explained the purpose of the exam, let me explain the rules. In order to pass, you need both scrolls and all 3 of your teammates alive. You are not allowed to leave the forest under any circumstances. And you are not allowed to open the scrolls until you reach the tower. If you break any of these rules, you will not make it to the next stage. So get your scroll and chose a get, she stated. Teams were about to turn to get their scrolls when they heard her voice again. Before you go, let me give you some advice, stay alive, she said with a grin that sent shivers down everyone's spine. Soon the teams got their scrolls and chose a gate to wait by. Team 7 stood by gate 12 waiting for the second exam to begin. 5 days stuck in a forest, great, Sakura said nervously before looking at Sasuke. But with Sasuke-kun on our team, we'll be fine. What did I ever see in her? Naruto asked himself while rolling his eyes. He looked at his team before looking at the forest. Survival, that was something he could do. After all, when you live in a village who would like nothing more than to see you die, your whole life is pretty much a survival test. Hey Dobi, let me hold the scroll. You'd probably just drop it or something, Sasuke said as he held out his hand towards the blonde. Naruto, however, ignored him as he was still looking at the forest. Naruto baka, don't ignore Sasuke-kun. Give him the scroll now, Sakura yelled, causing the 2 boys and the Chunin who was guarding the gate to wince. Recovering from the pain, Naruto glared at her, which caught her off guard. He never glared at her before. He wordlessly tossed their heaven scroll to the Uchiha and resumed his thinking. Suddenly a small alarm went off and they looked at the Chunin who was looking at his watch. He undid the locks and chains around the gate and looked at Team 7. Alright, the second exam has officially begun. Good luck, he said to them as they entered the forest. It's finally time to see the results of my training, Naruto thought to himself as he and his team ran through the forest. About 1 hour or so into the exam, Team 7 slowed down their pace as they walked through the forest. They came to a stop when they heard the sound of screaming run through the forest. This place gives me the creeps, Sakura shivered. Calm down, we'll be fine, Naruto said. It was true that he got over his crush on her and he definitely wasn't going to take her crap anymore, but she was still his teammate and it wouldn't do him any good if she panicked. Will you two shut up for a minute? We need to plan ahead, Sasuke said, gaining their attention. What do you mean, Sasuke-kun? Sakura asked. We have 5 days to get the scroll. Not only that, but until we get it we are stuck in a forest that is filled with enemies. We can't just go walking around casually, he explained, getting a nod from the 2. So what do you think we should do? Sakura asked, but it was Naruto who spoke. I think we should rest for the first day, he said, causing the others to look at him strangely. Why would we just rest, you baka? We need to get a scroll, Sakura yelled. Let the Dobi speak, he might say something useful, Sasuke said, surprising them. While the Uchiha did not particularly like Naruto, he couldn't deny the fact that he could be surprisingly resourceful. Think about it, most teams will most likely be freaked out and rush. While they rush, we can gather supplies. We don't know this area at all, so if we're injured and unprepared, we're seriously screwed. So we can set up some traps, look for some edible food and water, and then we can strike when the other teams are weakened, Naruto reasoned, shocking his teammates. Naruto, the class idiot, actually made some valid points. As much as I hate to admit it, he makes some good points. We'll scavenge around and wait a day for the other teams to tire themselves out. The 3 of them were about to secure some food when a powerful gust of wind appeared. The wind was strong enough to send the 3 of them flying. When the wind cleared, Sasuke looked around to see Sakura lying next to him, but he couldn't see his blonde teammate anywhere. We were careless, and now an enemy was able to separate Naruto from us, Sasuke thought as he clenched his teeth. He stood up and walked over to Sakura. Sakura, get up, he shouted as he tried to wake her up. Sakura began to stir and she groggily looked up. What happened? She asked. Most likely an enemy attack, he said, gaining Sakura's full attention. Are you sure? Yes, that wind wasn't natural. They also separated us from Naruto. He explained. That baka is so useless. We're under attack and he lets himself get separated from us? When I see him I'm kicking his ass. She yelled, ignoring the fact that it was the enemy's fault. Funny, you say that as if you're going to be leaving here alive. A voice said. They looked ahead to see the grass ninja from earlier, but he was alone. I've heard many things about you, Uchiha Sasuke. I hope you will be able to entertain me, he said before he charged at the two of them. With Naruto. What hit me? Naruto groaned as he stood up, rubbing his head. He looked around and he saw that he was alone. Where are Sakura and the Teme? He asked himself. You should worry about yourself instead of your teammates. A voice said. He looked ahead and saw two shinobi staring at him. Standing behind them was a very large snake. Naruto narrowed his eyes, remembering they were the teammates of the grass ninja from earlier. To make this easier, I am calling the two of them crime and punishment because they each had the kanji for it on their hats. What the hell do you want? Naruto asked, keeping a careful eye on them. Well, our leader wanted to test the Uchiha, but we didn't want to be bored, so we thought we'd keep you company. Crime said. What the hell does your leader want with Sasuke? Naruto asked. Nothing that you should worry about, especially since you won't live long enough to see him again. Punishment yelled as he charged towards the blonde. He went for a right hook, but Naruto dodged at the last second. He grabbed Punishment's arm and kneed him in the gut before throwing him towards a tree. He was about to continue his attack when he saw a shadow looming over him. He was just able to avoid the giant snake that lunged at him. 3 versus 1, that's so fair. Naruto said sarcastically as he avoided the tail of the snake, only to be at the receiving end of kick, courtesy of Crime. There's no such thing as fair for us shinobi. Crime said as he threw a handful of shuriken. Naruto drew his sword and blocked the shuriken and ducked in time to avoid a roundhouse kick from Punishment, who recovered from Naruto's earlier attack. Naruto did a sweep kick that caught Punishment off guard. He quickly stood up and slammed his fist in the gut of his opponent, causing him to the ground hard enough to make cracks. Hado number 1. Show. Thrust, he said as he pointed his finger towards the giant snake's head. Suddenly a force was created from the finger that hit the snake's head, causing it to stagger back. Neat trick, but it won't be enough. Crime said as he aimed at Naruto with a kunai in hand. Naruto was able to block it with his sword but failed to notice Punishment grab his feet. Punishment pulled his feet, causing him to stumble a bit forward, losing balance. Seeing this, Crime pushed the blade away and kicked the back of Naruto's head, causing him to hit the floor. Whether it was out of pure instincts or not, Naruto rolled out of the way, just avoiding another kick, but this one was from Punishment. Naruto stood on his feet, shaking the cobwebs out of his head when the tail of the snake slammed in chest, sending him crashing into a tree. Naruto glared at the snake but heard a hissing sound. He glanced at his left to see a kunai embedded in the tree. And it had an explosive tag. The following explosion sent Naruto flying away until he hit the ground. He stood up and glared at the 3 in front of him. Okay, so I'm facing 3 opponents at once and one of them is a giant-ass snake. I better get rid of that first and then I'll work on those 2 clowns. Okay, I hope you had your fun because now it's my turn. Naruto said. Talk all you want but it's pointless. Crime yelled as he ran towards the blonde. Wind release. Great breakthrough, he shouted as a gust of wind was sent towards Naruto. Naruto jumped in the air to avoid it. He prepared himself for a counterattack but felt a presence above him. He looked up in time to see Punishment complete a few hand seals. Water release. Wild water wave. Punishment yelled from above as a powerful torrent of water slammed Naruto to the groggily got up, only to feel he ground beneath him shake. The floor around him began to crumble as the giant snake shot from the ground, swallowing the earth and Naruto with it. With Sasuke and Sakura. Fire release. Great fireball technique, Sasuke said as he fired a large fireball at the grass ninja. The ninja was able to dodge it easily. Smirking, the ninja flung 2 kunai knives at Sasuke, who stepped back, letting it hit the ground in front of him. His eyes widened when he saw the explosive tags attached and was barely able to move away before caught in the explosion. Sasuke looked around for his opponent but couldn't find him anywhere. Suddenly he felt the floor beneath him shift. His eyes widened before he jumped away, dodging a slash from the kunai the grass ninja held as he shot out from the ground. Don't touch my Sasuke-kun. Sakura yelled as she threw a handful of shuriken. Their opponent just shifted his body, avoiding he projectiles easily. I have no use for you, little girl, he said as he did a few hand seals. Hidden shadow snake hands, he said, raising his arm towards Sakura. Then out of nowhere, snakes shot out from his sleeve, all heading towards the pink-haired shinobi. Sakura froze, not anticipating an attack like this. Preparing for the worst, she closed her eyes, waiting for the pain. But nothing happened. She opened her eyes and saw that Sasuke threw his shuriken in order to cut the snakes before they reached her. Sasuke-kun, you saved me. I knew you cared, she shouted, relieved but cringed when she saw his glare. Stop playing around, Sakura. This isn't a game. This guy can really kill us, he shouted. How can she still think about her ridiculous crush right now? Didn't she understand the danger they were in? I certainly hope your other teammate is faring better than the girl. The ninja said, gaining their attention. Naruto, you know where he is? Sasuke asked. As much as he hated to admit it, with Naruto fighting with him, they had a better chance of beating this guy. Yes, right now my teammates are keeping him company, he answered. There is a high possibility that he is already dead though. Hearing this caused Sasuke to smirk. He and Naruto might not get along, but he knew one thing about him. Sorry, but Naruto won't go down that easily. He may be an idiot, but he won't go down without a fight, Sasuke said as he got into a fighting stance and activated his Sharingan. So you want to continue? Excellent, the ninja said with a sadistic smile as he got into his own fighting stance. The two stared at each other, and as if there were some silent signal, they charged. With Naruto, I can't believe I got eaten. This is so gross, Naruto shouted from within the snake that swallowed him whole. If Sasuke ever finds out about this, I'll never hear the end of it. He continued to rant, trying to think of a way out. Well, this will be the first time I'll use this in battle. Hope it works, Naruto said as he drew his sword. His body and blade were soon surrounded by a blue and white aura as he held his sword in a two-hand hold. His aura was able to push the muscles of the snake's insides, giving Naruto enough room to swing. Ryodan, bisection, he said as he swung his blade. The attack had enough force to completely cut through the snake. The two grass ninja watched, shocked, as the snake was split in two. Their eyes widened more when they saw Naruto step out of the snake with his sword drawn. Naruto walked away from the corpse and smirked at their expressions. 1 down, 2 to go, he said with a smirk as his opponents came back to their senses and glared at the blonde. Don't get, Crime said as he went through some hand seals. Earth release. Earth flow spears, he said as the ground around Naruto began to change. Naruto was able to jump just in time to avoid getting stabbed by stone spears that shot out of the ground. Water release. Water needle downpour, a voice said from above. Naruto looked to see punishment smirking at him as water began to gather around, forming a multitude of needles before they charged at Naruto. Naruto hissed in pain as the needles pierced his body as he landed on his feet. You two are starting to be a real pain in the ass, he said as he raised his arm towards the airborne punishment. These guys are good. This might not be strong enough to keep them still forever, but it should be enough. Bakudo number 4. Heinawa, crawling rope, he said as yellow light began to form around his hand. The energy took the form of a rope as it shot towards punishment, binding him. The grass ninja fell to the ground, struggling to break free. What the hell did you do? The trapped ninja yelled as he continued struggling with whatever was binding him. Just evening the numbers, Naruto said before he dove down, avoiding a wave of shuriken. I have to admit, you're a lot more trouble than we originally thought. But it's time to end this little game, Crime said as he went through some seals. Hidden shadow snake hands, he said as a wave of snakes shot out of his sleeve aimed at the blonde. He swore under his breath. More snakes? Fantastic, he said sarcastically. The grip on his sword tightened as he charged forward. He jumped and did a quick spin, severing the snakes before throwing some shuriken with his free hand. Seeing this, Crime prepared his counter. Wind release. Great breakthrough, he said as he created a gust of wind that blew the shuriken away. He followed by pulling 2 kunai out and charged at the blonde, who swung his sword at the grass nin. Sparks flew as the weapons clashed. Naruto swung his sword in a vertical slash, but Crime ducked down to avoid it. In retaliation, he threw one of his kunai, aimed for Naruto's head, but the blonde sidestepped out of the way. Naruto tried to knee his opponent, but Crime backed away to avoid contact. He did a sweep kick that caused Naruto to fall back, but he used the momentum to backflip away from the grass. Nen. Quit dodging. It's really pissing me off. Naruto shouted as he charged again. I could say the same thing. We were told that the Uchiha was the only talented one on his team. Looks like we were misled. Crime said while doing some hand seals. Earth release. Stone cannon technique, he said as he slammed his fist to the ground. A large boulder shot from the ground in front of him. He punched the boulder and it was sent flying towards the blonde. Naruto's eyes widened in shock as he watched the boulder approach. Relying on instincts, he barely dodged the attack by jumping over the flying piece rock. The moment he hit the ground, he was kicked in the side of the head, sending him crashing into the base of a tree. He looked up and saw punishment had escaped from his binding spell, and he did not look happy. No more games, brat. It's time to end this. Punishment yelled as he and Crime attacked the blonde. Naruto sheathed his sword and reached into his pocket to grab something that the other two couldn't see. The two grass shinobi unleashed a barrage of punches and kicks, but Naruto was able to evade and block most of them. He weaved around the attacks until he felt a knee impact his stomach. He was sent flying a few feet away. The two enemies smirked until they felt something pull against their body, binding their arms. They looked at their body and saw light reflecting of something. It only took them a second to realize that Naruto wrapped the both of them with ninja wire. Looks like it's game over, Naruto said as he stood up, wiping a small trail of blood that came from his mouth. The trapped ninjas looked at him to see he was holding the other end of the wire in his hand. Hado number 11. Suzuri Raiden, bound lightning, as electricity began to generate around his hand. The strength of the electrical current increased until it traveled along the wire. Once the current hit the two shinobi, they screamed in pain while Naruto smirked at his success. But it was soon wiped away when they disappeared in a cloud of smoke. What? You've got to be kidding me. I've been fighting clones this entire time, he thought, but was shocked again when a swarm of medium-sized snakes shot through the air from where the clones originally were. What kind of jutsu was that? Damn it, I don't have anything that can handle this many snakes at once. Naruto thought as the snakes were getting closer. Time seemed to have frozen. Come on, Naruto. Think, he shouted. There was no way he could avoid all those snakes. Looks like you're in a real tight spot, a soft voice said. Naruto blinked in confusion. Who was that? He looked around and was surprised to see that he was no longer in the forest, but his current location wasn't much of an improvement. Right now he was standing alone in the middle of a blizzard. Where the hell am I? He asked himself, wondering why he was inside the middle of a blizzard. Right now you're in your inner world, the same gentle voice from earlier said. He turned around and saw the shadow of the figure walk through the blizzard. Once she was standing a few feet away, Naruto was able to get a good look at the person, and he was surprised at what he saw. Right in front of him was a beautiful girl. She had long lavender hair that was so pale that it was almost white. It was tied in a partial bun in the back. Her pale skin was flawless and her dark blue eyes had a look of happiness as she looked at him. It was almost as if she had been waiting for him to arrive. She was wearing a white kimono with a purple bow on the back that was attached to a pale yellow obi. Naruto found that he was unable to speak as he looked at her. She was definitely the most beautiful woman that he had ever seen. Looking at his dazed expression, the woman smiled in amusement. You know that it's impolite to stare, she teased, snapping him out of his trance-like state. Sorry, he said, scratching the back of his head. It's okay. I'm actually quite flattered that my appearance was able to shock you into silence. She teased again, causing Naruto to blush. He was about to say something but paused. Earlier she said that this place was his inner world. What the hell is that? Excuse me, miss, but you said that we're in a place called an inner world. Exactly what is that? He asked. An inner world is a part of your soul, she answered, but it only confused the blonde. So you mean I'm in my soul right now? He asked, earning a nod from her. Basically. So if this is my soul, then why are you here? He asked, causing her to cross her arms and pout. Am I not welcomed here? She asked in a hurt tone. Hearing this, Naruto waved his hands frantically. No, that's not what I meant, he shouted, causing her to chuckle. You're really easy to tease, she said with a smile. And the reason I'm here is because I am a part of you. A part of me? He repeated. Yes, while I am not you, I am connected to you. It's because of that bond that you and I are able to meet each other here. She explained. I get it. You must be my Zanpakuto spirit that Urahara-sensei was telling me about, he said in realization. Very good. That is correct. She praised, causing him to blush, not used to being praised. So does that mean I'm able to use some kind of new power that Urahara-sensei told me about? Naruto asked as he recalled his lessons about the Zanpakuto and how they work. That depends, she said, causing the blonde to raise an eyebrow in question. Depends on what? He asked, confused. What will you do with my powers? She asked, looking at him intently. Naruto was about to shout how he would use her powers to become Hokage but stopped. That was what the old Naruto would have done. He decided to think about why he wanted to be stronger. Why did he want to become Hokage? When a person has something important to protect, that's when they can become stronger. He heard a voice say. He thought about what he had learned from Haku during his time at Wave. Something important to protect. He thought to himself, thinking about Iruka, his older brother figure, the Hokage who was like a grandfather, and finally he people of the Urahara shop who treated him like family. If I can use your power, I'll use it to become Hokage. That way I can protect those who are important to me. To protect those who became my family. He said with resolve. The woman looked at him carefully, seeing nothing but honesty and fierce determination, causing her to smile. The blizzard around them suddenly disappeared and they were standing in the middle of a beautiful snow-covered field. In that case I will help you. But first let me introduce myself. My name is... Naruto's eyes snapped open. He was no longer in the snowfield but instead standing in the forest of death. He looked ahead to see a wave of snakes still approaching him. Narrowing his eyes, he grabbed the sheath of his Zanpakuto and it began to glow. Soda no Shirayuki, he shouted as he swung his sword, and the forest was surrounded in white. In that case I will help you. But first let me introduce myself. My name is... Naruto's eyes snapped open. He was no longer in the snowfield but instead standing in the forest of death. He looked ahead to see a wave of snakes still approaching him. Narrowing his eyes, he grabbed the sheath of his Zanpakuto and it began to glow. Soda no Shirayuki, he shouted as he swung his sword, and the forest was surrounded in white. Naruto looked ahead of him and observed his surroundings. The snakes in front of him were completely frozen while the ground beneath him was covered in a layer of snow and ice. Now that he wasn't in immediate danger, he glanced at the sword in its hand, its appearance completely different. In his hands he held a katana. The blade, tsuba and hilt were as white as snow. The tsuba was a hollow snowflake shape and a long white ribbon came from the pommel. He took a few experimental swings and noticed how light it felt in his hands. I've never seen a sword like this, he said as he gently slid his fingers over the blade. Suddenly the sword glowed, and when the light faded the appearance changed. It was now a standard katana with a reddish-brown hilt. What the hell happened? He asked himself. Since we are safe at the moment, I returned to my sealed state. A familiar voice said, causing Naruto to blink. Is that you, Soda no Shirayuki? Naruto asked, confused. He looked around and saw that he was still alone. Yes, it's me, she said. I'm talking to you through a mental link, she explained as the blonde continued to look around. Oh, so I can talk to you anytime now? He asked as he sheathed his sword. Pretty much. Now then, it's not like I don't enjoy talking to you, but shouldn't you go look for your team? She asked, causing Naruto to blink a few times before he smacked his head. Damn it, I knew I forgot something, he shouted as he ran through the forest hoping to find his team. Urahara shop. Urahara Kisuke was drinking a cup of tea when he felt a surge of power. He put the cup down and rubbed his chin in thought before a grin found its way on his face. Well, now, it looks like young Naruto-kun has activated his Shikai, he said out loud to the other store occupants. So soon? Looks like you were right about the boy Kisuke-kun, Tessai said as he restocked a shelf with some standard shinobi gear. Of course I was right about him. I chose him as my apprentice after all, Urahara said cheerfully. So how do you think Blondie is doing? Jinta asked as he sat on a chair relaxing while Ururu swept the floor. Now that he has his Shikai, I am even more confident that he will advance. Even better, now we can start the next level of his training, he said as he began to walk out of the door. Where are you going, Kazuki-san? Ururu asked. Oh, I'm just going to visit the Hokage. I think it's about time he and I have a little chat about our favorite blonde, he said over his shoulder before exiting the shop. Forest of Death with Sasuke and Sakura. Sasuke was kicked in the stomach, sending him crashing into a tree. Groaning in pain, he looked up to see the grass nin smirking as he looked down at him. Standing back up, Sasuke glared at him as he pulled out some shuriken and threw them, only for his opponent to dodge them effortlessly. "Oh my, you're going to have to do better than that, Sasuke-kun," he ninja taunted. "I'll show you better." "Fire release. Phoenix Sage fire technique," he said as he fired a wave of small fireballs. The flames were able to hit their target and Sasuke allowed a victorious smirk to appear on his face, but it was wiped off when the smoke cleared. Instead of seeing his injured opponent, he saw a burned log in his place. Damn it, a substitution, he thought as he scanned the area, looking for the grass nen. He heard a strange sound and quickly moved his head, barely dodging an incoming kunai. Turning towards the direction it came from, he was met with a fist to the face followed by a knee in the gut that sent him flying, but the Uchiha wasn't done yet. As he was sent flying through the air, the grass nin's tongue shot out and wrapped itself around the Uchiha's ankle, pulling him back, where he received a powerful punch that sent him crashing down. "As much as I enjoyed toying with my prey, I think it's about time to end this," he said, looked down on the fallen boy who was glaring at him with hate in his eyes. He suddenly raised his hand and easily caught a kunai that was aimed at him. "Step away from Sasuke-kun," Sakura shouted as she threw another kunai, but the grass nin was able to parry it. "Such an annoyance," he sighed as Sakura charged at him. He caught her by the wrist and punched her in the stomach, causing her to fall on her knees as she gasped for air. Sasuke used this chance to grab a smoke bomb and threw it at the ninja's head. Surprised at the sudden move, the blinded ninja blacked away. Sasuke got up, grabbed Sakura and ran away from the grass nin, hoping to escape. "I don't want to admit it, but this guy is too strong. How could he defeat me?" he thought to himself as he ran through the forest. He kept running until a large snake suddenly appeared in front of him, and on the snake's head stood the grass nin. "I'll admit that you're making the chase enjoyable, but was that the best escape plan you came up with?" he asked as he watched them curiously. "Sasuke-kun, what are we going to do?" Sakura asked worriedly. This guy was way out of their league. Sasuke was silent as he tried to think of a plan. He clenched his fist before he reached into his pocket and pulled out air scroll. "How about we make a deal?" he finally asked. "Oh, and what kind of deal are you proposing?" the grass nin asked with a raised eyebrow. "Just leave us alone, and we'll hand over our scroll," Sasuke offered, surprising Sakura. "Trying to spare your life by offering me something of equal value?" he asked, seeing as the point of the exam was to collect the scrolls. "Take the scroll and go," Sasuke commanded as he tossed the scroll towards the grass nin. As it was halfway there, a blur blocked its path and grabbed the scroll. "Now why would you just surrender the scroll, Sasuke?" Naruto asked as he pocketed the scroll. "Now's not the time, Naruto. This guy is too strong," Sasuke shouted. "Listen to Sasuke-kun, baka. If he can't handle this guy, then none of us can," Sakura added. Naruto just stared at them and scoffed. "And you guys called me stupid," he said, confusing them. "We already know you're stupid, but what does that have to do with anything?" Sakura asked, annoyed. Didn't he understand the danger they were in? This guy was stronger than Sasuke. How on earth could Naruto even hope to beat him? If this guy is as strong as you say, then how do you know he'll keep his word? What's stopping him from killing us after you hand over the scroll? Lies, stealing, deception, that's all part of being a shinobi," he said, looking straight into their eyes. The other two were shocked, wondering how the dobi of their class could come up with that while they didn't. Their attention was brought back to the grass nin standing on the snake as he began to laugh. "While watching this team drama unfold is amusing, you're absolutely right, Naruto-kun. Why should I spare you, when I can kill you and take the scroll from your dead corpses?" he said as the snake charged towards them. Sasuke and Sakura jumped out of the way, but Naruto surprised them all by charging forward. He drew his Zanpakuto and grabbed the hilt with both hands as he held the blade over his head. "Sukawari, watermelon splitting," he said as he swung his sword at the snake's head. The grass nin jumped out of the way in time to avoid the attack and watched surprised as the snake's head was cut in two. "I must say you are stronger than I gave you credit for," the ninja praised as he watched the blonde with a calculative eye. His two teammates had similar thoughts. How on earth did the dobi do that while I couldn't? Sasuke thought to himself after seeing the display of power that his teammate had. When did the baka get so strong? Sakura asked herself, not expecting this in the slightest. Go to hell, Naruto shouted as he charged again. He swung his Zanpakuto, but the grass nin was able to jump out of harm's way. Wind release. Great breakthrough, he said as he created a powerful gust of wind that sent Naruto flying into a tree. Naruto coughed up some blood before glaring at his teammates. Why the hell are you just watching? Get off your asses and help me fight, he yelled, snapping the two of them out of their stupor. Sasuke looked at his blonde teammate before looking at their opponent. No matter what I did, this guy was at least 2 steps ahead of me. Even with Naruto here, there's a chance we won't make it, Sasuke thought to himself. If I die here, then I'll never be able to get revenge on my brother. I'll never be able to restore my clan. Sorry Naruto, but I have too much to lose, he thought as he made his decision. He looked over at Sakura, who was standing by him the whole time. Sakura, snap out of it, he said, gaining her attention. Sasuke-kun? She asked, looking at him, wondering what they should do. Get ready. When I say go, we run as fast as we can, he whispered, shocking her. What about Naruto? I know he's a baka, but still, she whispered back. He's planning on staying here no matter what. We both know that we can't beat this guy. A shinobi's main objective is to complete the mission at all cost. Right now our mission is to gather all the scrolls we need, he explained. But what about the proctor? She said we need the whole team if we want to pass. Sakura asked. What's better, all 3 of us dying or at least 2 of us able to escape alive? Sasuke asked. Sakura was silent as she thought over what he said. Finally she spoke, although it was a bit uncertainly. Okay, let's go, she said quietly with a nod. Are you guys going to do anything? Naruto yelled, getting frustrated as he blocked a kunai with his Zanpakuto. Go, Sasuke said as he and Sakura turned around. Naruto watched, shocked, as they ran away, leaving him alone. Even his opponent looked surprised. They left me, Naruto thought to himself. I must say, I didn't expect that. In the end it will lead to their downfall. Splitting up will just weaken their strength and make them easier prey, he said as he looked back on the blonde, but he was still silent. I knew they didn't like me, but we're teammates. I thought they would have my back, but they're just like the rest of the village. They don't give a shit about me. Now I'm alone, he thought as he looked at the grass nin, who was staring at him with the eyes of a predator that was about to pounce. How the hell am I going to beat this guy by myself? He thought as he got into a stance. I'm hurt, have you already forgotten about me? A soft voice said from his mind. It took Naruto a second, but he soon remembered who that voice belonged to. Soda no Shirayuki? He asked in his mind. So you do remember me, she said happily, causing Naruto to adopt a sheepish expression despite the serious situation. Sorry, I guess I'm just not used to talking to you through my head and stuff. Plus with all that's been happening with this guy, the first guess had just slipped, he explained. Although he couldn't see it, he could almost feel her rolling her eyes at him. I guess that's a reasonable answer, this time. Just remember that I'm always by your side, she said. Hearing this, Naruto allowed a small smile to appear on his face. Thanks, so how do I use your powers anyway? He asked, earning a small chuckle from the ice spirit. Silly Naruto, you already know how to unleash my powers. All you have to do is think and you'll find the answer you're looking for, she said as the mental link between the two of them wasn't quite sure what she meant by that, but decided to try it out. He closed his eyes and thought hard about how to unlock his Zanpakuto's powers. While this has been entertaining, all good things must come to an end, Naruto-kun, the grass nin said as he charged towards the blonde, planning to end this. Naruto did not respond to this. Instead he opened his eyes and held his Zanpakuto out. Dance, Soda no Shirayuki, he said as he turned his Zanpakuto in a counterclockwise motion. As he turned it, the color of the blade, tsuba, and hilt changed until they were white as snow as a white ribbon formed from the pommel. Once the transformation was over, a gust of cold air blew around him, covering the grass beneath him in a light layer of frost. That's a nice trick, but whatever you do won't change anything. Now die, the ninja said as he approached the blonde. Naruto just stared at his opponent before closing his eyes. He wasn't sure how he knew what to do, but he just followed what his instincts told him to do. He held Shirayuki upside down and made a slashing motion. As he did this, the tip of his sword created a circle. First dance. Tsukishiro, white moon, he said as he jumped away to dodge the grass nen. The grass nin was about to attack when he noticed something. He looked down and his eyes widened in surprise. The circle was soon covered in ice before it spread and covered him as well. The amount of ice kept going until the ninja was trapped inside a giant pillar of ice. Naruto watched as the pillar of ice began to crack until it, and the grass nin, shattered into pieces. He watched as the remains of the grass nin soon turned into mud. A clone? He asked himself until he felt a blow in the back of his head. He was sent skidding across the ground as the grass nin watched him carefully. I'm not sure what you did, Naruto-kun, but it seems like you are a larger threat than I gave you credit for. What is this? It isn't the Kyuubi's power. Leaving you will only hinder my future plans. He thought as stalked towards the blonde. Naruto got up to a knee as he shook the cobwebs out of his head. He glared at his opponent as he made his way over. Ye Lord, mask of blood and flesh, all creation, flutter of wings, ye who bears the name of man. Inferno and pandemonium, the sea barrier surges, march on to the south, he whispered. What are you muttering to yourself? A final prayer? The grass nin asked with a smirk as he toured over the blonde. Hado number 31. Shakuho, red fire cannon, he said. An orb of red energy generated in front of his palm. He took aim and fired the ball of energy at the surprised ninja's head. The force of the attack caused him to take a step back as his head was surrounded by smoke. Naruto watched wide-eyed as his opponent's body chose to stand on its feet instead of falling to the ground. As the smoke cleared, he saw the ninja was a bit charred, but overall he looked perfectly fine except for his face. His face began to peel off as if he was wearing a mask. It looks like you are just full of surprises. My original objective was Sasuke, but I think you'll make a fine addition. How is he still standing? The Shakuho was my strongest Kido spell. Naruto thought as he was frozen in place. There's no way that this guy was an ordinary genin. Naruto, this guy is too strong. I can sense that he's only using a fraction of his power. You have to escape. He heard the voice of Soda no Shirayuki say. How can I escape? There's no way that this guy will just let me walk away. I'm not sure, but you better think of something or else. She warned as Naruto silently agreed with her. He watched until the ninja was right in front of him with a sardonic smirk on his face. I'm afraid it's over, Naruto-kun. Any last words? He asked. Just this. Bakudo number 21. Seikenten, red smoke escape, he said as he slammed his hand on the ground, which created a large burst of red smoke that completely engulfed the two of them. Momentarily stunned by the sudden move, the grass nin took a few steps back as he began to cough. This brat is really starting to get on my nerves, he thought as he waved his arms around trying to find some breathing room. When the smoke finally cleared, he looked around and couldn't find any trace of the blonde. He will definitely be a problem with my future plans. It'd be wise to get rid of him now, he said to himself as he tried to figure out which way the blonde went. He was about to move but paused and his eyes narrowed. He was able to detect a few chakra signatures heading towards him. Signatures that were much higher than any genin. It looks like those fools have discovered me. Looks like you two are very lucky. But rest assured, the Sharingan will be mine, he said before he ran off to hide before he was discovered. One day later with Naruto. Naruto was running through the trees, both relieved and beyond pissed. He was relieved because yesterday he was able to feel the presence of that grass shinobi run off in the opposite direction. He was beyond pissed because his so-called teammates left him alone on the battlefield. How could they do that? Didn't they remember Kakashi's lesson? One thing was for sure, he was not going to let this one go. Naruto, you have to calm down, he heard the voice of his Zanpakuto say. I know that, but I just can't believe they left me there for dead, he roared in his head. Hearing this caused Shirayuki to sigh. I know that. What they did was unforgivable, but whether you like it or not, they are still a part of your team. You still need them if you want to advance to the next stage of the exam, she explained. Hearing this caused Naruto to calm down a bit. She was right. Whether he liked it or not, he needed his team in order to pass this part of the exam. No matter how he felt about them at the moment, he was not willing to back down from the exams after getting this far. After taking a deep breath, he closed his eyes and searched for the familiar signatures of the rest of Team 7. After a few seconds he found them, but they were right next to another group of unknown signatures. For fuck's sakes, they ran away from one fight and they're already fighting another team? God damn it, he cursed as he changed directions. So much for calming down. Shirayuki said, but Naruto didn't hear her, too focused on reaching the others before they got themselves killed. Konoha and Sound Genin. Sasuke glared at the 3 Sound Genin in front of him. How were they so strong? At first they outnumbered them when the 3 of them ambushed him and Sakura. The Uchiha was able to put up a fight, but eventually the number game proved too difficult. Then out of nowhere Rock Lee came to help them after declaring his love for Sakura, who stated rather harshly that he had no chance with her and that Sasuke was the only one for her. Sakura proved useless in this fight, seeing as Shion knew the academy jutsu, which didn't really help them. Sasuke refused to admit he needed help at all. Because of this, Lee was forced to fight all 3 Sound Genin at the same time. Although he gave a valiant effort, he too succumbed to the numbers. But once again, seemingly out of nowhere, help came, this time in the form of Team 10 of Konoha. This year's Ino Shika Cho was able to put up a good fight against the Sound Genin. Their great teamwork was able to handle their opponents, but soon the Sound team's ruthlessness was able to defeat them as well. The group of Konoha Genin could only watch as the Sound team was able to systematically tear them apart one by one. Troublesome. We could have done a sneak attack Ino, but no, we had to charge them on head first. Shikamaru said in both a sarcastic and lazy tone. Shut up, Shikamaru. We had to do something to help Sasuke-kun. Ino shot back. There was no way she would just sit there and watch as this Sound ninja killed her beloved. Hey, where's Naruto? If he were here he could have helped us. A panting Choji commented. Please, like that dead last could do anything. Ino scoffed. Actually, Choji brings up a good point. Where is Naruto? Shikamaru asked Sakura and Sasuke. The Dobi ditched us. Probably got himself killed. Sasuke said, even though he was the one who ditched him. We have no time to worry about the baka. What are we going to do about them? Sakura said as she pointed at the 3 Sound ninja. I think we've had enough fun. It's time for us to complete our mission. It's game over, Sasuke. Dose said as he stared at the weakened ninja. To think that Konoha was this weak, it's pathetic. Zaku taunted with a smug expression on his face. I agree, but enough talk. Kin Zaku, finish them. Right, his 2 teammates said as they charged towards. But before they reached the others, someone jumped between the 2 sides and punched the 2 Sound ninjas in the stomach, sending them flying back. What the hell? Zaku said, clutching his stomach. What just happened? Kin asked in a similar position as Zaku. It looks like we have another guest joining us. Dosu stated in annoyance. The person in front of them wore black pants and a black shirt with a spiral symbol on it. He wore an orange sash around his waist that held a katana at his side. Although the Sound ninja didn't, the Konoha Genin recognized him. Naruto? You came right in the nick of time. Choji said with a smile. You had to come at last minute, troublesome blonde. Shikamaru said, but he also had a relieved smile on his face. It's about time you got here, baka. Sakura yelled, forgetting that she and Sasuke left him. She was about to yell some more, but her words died in her throat when he looked over his shoulder at her. His blue eyes that used to hold such warmth and compassion towards her showed nothing but rage. Haruno, shut the fuck up. He said coldly, shocking everyone, but he paid no attention to them. He looked back at the Sound ninja. Give us whatever scroll you have and leave. If you do, I'll let you live. He ordered. Hearing this, Zaku began to laugh. That's rich. It's 3 against 1 loser. Your friends are too tired to help out, not like it would matter. I'll admit you caught me off guard, but it won't happen again. He said, confident that he could take Naruto down. I'm warning you, I am in a very bad mood. Leave or else you'll regret it. Naruto warned. He unsheathed his Zanpakuto. And here's my answer. Decapitating airwaves, he shouted as he held his arms out before unleashing a blast of supersonic airwaves. Naruto quickly ran to the side, avoiding the attack as it created a large explosion on the ground. Your attacks come from you arms. If I can restrict them, then I restrict your power. He said as he pointed his index and middle finger at Zaku. What the hell are you talking about? How are you going to restrict my arms? Zaku shouted as he aimed his arms, preparing for another attack. Bakudo number 1. Sai, restrain, Naruto said. Decapitating airwaves, Zaku shouted. Before his attack was unleashed, he felt a strange force around his arms. Against his will, his arms were suddenly pulled behind his back, but it was too late to stop his attack. The sudden movement shifted his aim drastically and he fired 2 airwaves, one from each hand, which ended up hitting the opposite arm. Zaku screamed as he felt like his arms were being torn to shreds. The pain was too much and he soon passed out. Zaku! Kin shouted as she was about to help but stopped when Naruto suddenly appeared in front of her. He raised his arm until his palm was right in front of her face. "Inamori, forced slumber," he said as Kin felt a strange sensation before she fell to the ground unconscious. "And then there was one," Naruto said as he stared at Dosu impassively. The others just watched shocked as the dead last of their class defeated two of the sound genin as if they were nothing. "How?" Dosu asked, unable to believe what he just saw. "They made the worst possible mistake when facing me, they underestimated me," he answered as he got into a fighting stance. "Damn it, this one is very strong. I used up too much chakra when facing the others," Dose thought as he reached into his pocket revealing an earth scroll. "If your offer still stands, I will relinquish our scroll in exchange you let me and my teammates leave here peacefully," the bandaged-covered ninja offered. Naruto listened to him before sheathing his Zanpakuto. "Very well. Hand over your scroll and leave," he said. Dosu nodded as he tossed Naruto the scroll, who caught it, and grabbed his teammates before leaving the area. Naruto pocketed the scroll before looking at the rest of the fallen Konoha ninja. "Haruno Uchiha, we're heading for the tower. We have both scrolls now," Naruto said emotionlessly. The way he addressed them caught everyone off guard until Sakura noticed he was ordering them around. "Who made you the boss, Baka?" she yelled in anger. She was answered with a harsh glare from the blonde. "I was the one who got the scroll we needed and kept the scroll that the Uchiha surrendered. I will be heading towards the tower, so follow me if you want. But if you want to stay then go ahead. I have no problems leaving you behind like you two did to me," he said coldly, causing her to flinch. This wasn't the Naruto that treated her like she was Kami's gift to the world. "Dobi, where did you learn those moves?" Sasuke demanded. He was beyond mad that Naruto was able to defeat those sound genin while he couldn't. "None of your business, Uchiha. Like I said, I'm heading for the tower. Follow me or don't, because I could honestly care less about what you two do," he stated as he made his way towards the tower. His teammates reluctantly followed him, surprised by his new attitude. "What do you think happened to Naruto?" Choji asked as he watched Team 7 leave. "I don't know, but I have a feeling that things are going to get troublesome real soon," Shikamaru said, also wondering what happened to the hyperactive blonde. Shortly after, Lee's team came to retrieve the green-clad ninja before the two teams went their separate ways in order to find the scroll they needed. Team 7 had finished their goal and walked through the forest of death, and now they stood inside the tower at the center. The room they were in was empty except for a poster with a message on it. Sighing, Naruto looked around the room to see if he could find anyone who would tell them what to do next. Unfortunately, the only ones in the room were the three genin. "We should probably open the scrolls," Naruto said as he tossed the heaven scroll, which Sakura sloppily caught. "Baka, the proctor told us not to open the scrolls," she shouted, but Naruto rolled his eyes. "Then tell me, what are we supposed to do now?" he asked with a pointed stare. Sakura was silent, trying to think of a response but couldn't find one. "I thought so. Just do it, Sakura," Sasuke said, causing the pink-haired girl to have hearts in her eyes. "Of course, Sasuke-kun," she said with a dreamy expression on her face. Naruto and Sakura opened the scrolls and dropped it when smoke exploded from it. They watched the smoke disappear and Naruto allowed a small smile grow on his face as he saw who was standing in front of him. "Nice to see you again, Iruka-sensei," the blonde greeted. "Hey kids, it's been a while," the scarred Chunin said, but he mentally frowned when he noticed how tense Naruto was around his teammates. "What are you doing here, sensei?" Sakura asked, bringing her attention back to him. "I have to admit, I'm surprised. You guys got here a lot faster than I thought," Iruka said with a smile. "Anyway, now that you're here you have some time before the next stage begins. There are some rooms around the tower for you guys while you wait for the rest of the teams to get here," he informed. "Alright then, let's go rest," Sasuke said as he made his way out of the room, Sakura following right behind. Naruto was about to leave the room too, but Iruka stopped him. "Is everything alright, Naruto?" the older shinobi asked. Naruto looked at him and sighed. "Everything's alright, sensei. I just figured out what I mean to my teammates," he said before leaving the room, leaving Iruka alone wondering what he meant by that. Team 7 walked through the tower until they arrived at the room that was assigned to their team. He refused to talk to them, but they didn't seem to mind. Sasuke was his usual brooding self. The only time he spoke was when he refused Sasuke's request for a date. When they arrived at their room, Naruto sat on his bed and got into a meditative pose. "What are you doing?" Sakura asked, not believing that their blonde teammate even understood the concept of meditation. Naruto simply ignored her as he held his Zanpakuto across his lap and entered his soulscape. Soulscape. Naruto found himself sitting in the middle of a field that was covered in a layer of white snow. Although the sky was clear, there was a gentle snowfall. "Shirayuki, where are you?" he shouted, wondering where his Zanpakuto spirit was. Standing up, he decided to walk around the field in hopes of finding her. Walking for what seemed like forever, he finally found who he was looking for. Right in the middle of a frozen lake was Shirayuki. Naruto watched mesmerized as she danced across the frozen water. Her movements were graceful, not a single wasted motion was made. Her eyes were closed and a delighted smile was on her face as she glided over the ice. Once she finished her dancing, she was startled when she heard clapping. She turned around and saw Naruto clapping his hands with a smile on his face. "That was great, Shirayuki," he complimented as Shirayuki scratched the back of her head sheepishly. She was not expecting an audience when she decided to practice some of her dances. "Thank you," she said with a smile. She walked towards him, titling her head to the side. "What are you doing here, Naruto? I have some time before the next stage of the exams, so I figured I'd use this time to get to know my new partner," he explained. "In that case, I think it's about time you and I discuss on how to properly use my powers," she said as she sat down in the snow. Naruto followed and sat down in front of her. "Okay, so from what I understand, you use ice like when I froze that grass ninja," he said as he recalled his battle. "That's right, and while you did a good job using the first dance on your first try, you haven't mastered it," she informed, confusing him. "What do you mean I didn't master it? I was able to freeze him solid. If he wasn't a clone, then he would be nothing but shattered pieces of ice right now." "No, you were able to use the move, but you didn't master it. What you used was Tsukishiro, White Moon, the first and most basic dance. When you first used it, it took some time to freeze your enemy. Once you've completely mastered it, you'll be able to freeze your target in a second. Not only will that, but the range of this attack increase," she explained, causing Naruto to nod in understanding. "Alright, I guess that means I have some training to do. Are you willing to help me?" he asked. "Of course. It is my duty to help my master," Shirayuki explained, but yelped when Naruto flicked her forehead. Rubbing the sore spot on her head, she looked at Naruto, confusion evident in her eyes. "Never call me master. You and I are partners and friends. So are you ready, Shirayuki-chan?" Naruto asked, putting emphasis on the suffix. He stood up and offered his hand to Shirayuki with a smile. The ice spirit blinked twice before she smiled and took the offered hand. "Hi, let's get started then, Naruto-kun," she said as she stood up. "Now then, I need you to put your arms around me," she said. It took a while for Naruto to understand her words, but once he did, his eyes widened and he blushed a little. "What?" he shouted. Shirayuki was confused at his reaction but giggled when she saw his red face. "The first part of your training is me teaching you how to dance," she explained. "How is teaching me to dance training?" Naruto asked. "Remember when you wielded my Shikai form?" she asked. "Yeah, well, as you may or may not have noticed, my Shikai is a little different from other swords. It is designed for quick and precise strikes," she explained. "Yeah, I guess so. It really is different compared to other swords like Zabuza's," Naruto said thoughtfully. "So in order for you to use my Shikai to its fullest potential, you must learn how to move fluidly. This can be done by teaching you how to dance. It can also help you learn how to avoid making unnecessary movements once you apply this to battle," she said. Naruto listened and he understood what she was saying, but he was still a little hesitant. Seeing this, Shirayuki sighed. "Is there a reason you don't want to dance?" she asked before she made a face of mock hurt and spoke in a small voice. "Or is it that you just don't want to dance with me?" Seeing her face and hearing her voice like that caused Naruto to panic. "It's nothing like that, Shirayuki-chan. It's just," he trailed off. Shirayuki smirked at his reaction but tilted her head, wondering what was bothering him. "I've never danced before," he muttered, but she still heard. She giggled when she heard his reason, causing him to blush more. "It's fine. Remember I said I was going to teach you how to dance?" she said before grabbing his right arm and placing it around her waist. She then placed her right hand into his left before putting her left hand onto his shoulder. "Just hold me like this and follow my movements," she instructed, and he did as he was told, but the blush on his face never went away. This was the first time he was so close to a woman as beautiful as Shirayuki, let alone held. Eventually Naruto was able to pick up on her movements and was able to follow. So for the remaining days Naruto spent his time training with Shirayuki, only leaving his soulscape for meals and sleep. He never once spared a glance at his teammates. Day of preliminaries. Before we begin, I would like to congratulate you all on passing the second stage of the Chunin exams. The Hokage started from his spot looking at the group of young genin in front of him. As the Hokage began his speech, Naruto tuned out. His thoughts drifted to his encounter with the grass ninja. No matter what he did, his opponent seemed to have been one step ahead of him. Clenching his fist in frustration and mentally cursed. He thought he was ready to prove to the world how far he came, but his first battle after his training and nothing really changed. He thought he grew stronger, but he was outclassed. "Calm down, Naruto-kun. I can feel your frustration from here," the gentle voice of his Zanpakuto spirit said. Releasing a sigh, Naruto calmed himself down. "Sorry about that, Shirayuki-chan. It just really bothers me that the grass ninja I faced earlier was able to outclass me like that. I mean, I know I was able to get some good shots on him, but other than that, nothing." Naruto explained, irritation evident in his voice. "Maybe, but remember, experience is a big factor in battle. You were just unfortunate in dealing with an opponent who was more experienced than you," Shirayuki explained. Hearing this caused Naruto to feel more at ease. She was right, he only became a genin recently, and the only real fight he had was with Zabuza and Haku, and he wasn't alone at the time. "You're right. Thanks, Shirayuki-chan. I feel a bit better now," Naruto thanked with a small smile. "Anytime, Naruto-kun. Remember, I'll always be there for you," Shirayuki said, causing Naruto's smile to widen. This was what he always wanted. Someone to watch his back, someone he could rely on, someone he could call a friend. Although he never expected this person to be a Zanpakuto spirit, he wasn't going to complain. "Thank you," he said one more time before his attention turned back towards the Hokage. He blinked when he saw a sick-looking man standing in front of him. Frowning in confusion, he watched as Kabuto raised his hand. "You are Yakushi Kabuto, correct? Very well, you may leave," the sick-looking man explained. Naruto assumed he was the proctor of the next stage. "Damn, maybe I should have paid attention," Naruto thought to himself as he watched Kabuto leave the room. "Now that we have even number, we may begin with the preliminaries of the third stage," the proctor explained. Naruto thought he heard the name Gekko Hayate during his conversation with Shirayuki, so he assumed that that was this man's name. To decide who advances to the next round, we will have individual matches. Basically think of this as a tournament. The winner of each match will advance to the next stage. Since there are 20 of you remaining, we will have 10 matches. Hayate explained. Each fighter will fight until one is dead, unable to continue, or forfeits. In order to avoid unnecessary deaths, the match will end if a clear victor can be determined. Opponents will be chosen at random based on this electronic board. Hayate explained as a panel of the wall shifted, revealing an electronic board. "Now then, let's begin," Hayate said as two names appeared on the board. Uchiha Sasuke vs Akado Yoroi. Everyone who is not participating in this fight, please move to the balcony, Hayate instructed. The genin that were not scheduled to fight made their way towards the balcony. The Junin sensei followed suit and headed for their respective genin team, though Kakashi paused by Sasuke and leaned in to whisper something in his ear. "Remember, Sasuke, if you let that curse mark get the best of you, we'll have no choice but to disqualify you," Kakashi said, shocking Sasuke, who unconsciously clutched his shoulder. End flashback. Sasuke gritted his teeth as he recalled the events that transpired in the Forest of Death. Naruto, the dead last, was able to fight off that grass ninja when he could barely touch him. Then when those Auto Genin showed up, they took care of him and the rest of the Konoha shinobi there like they were nothing but amateurs. Sure, he was still worn out and weakened after that fight with the grass genin, but still he was an Uchiha. But then Naruto shows up again and defeats the Auto Genin alone. Where did he get those powers all of a sudden? They only separated for 10 days before the exams and he was trained by Kakashi. As far as he knew, Naruto only received some basic chakra control exercises, so how did he get so strong? He walked through the tower as he tried to clear his mind. His team has been in the tower for one day and he was starting to lose patience. Sakura kept annoying him as she continued to try and persuade him to go out on a date with her and Naruto. No matter what he did, he couldn't get an answer from the blonde. Whenever he or Sakura asked him a question on his new skills, he just scoffed and turned away so he could meditate. That was another thing, since when did the hyperactive Dobi meditate? It doesn't make sense. How did he get so strong? How did he fight against them so well when they were able to defeat me? He muttered to himself. He heard someone chuckling and his eyes narrowed as he looked behind him. What's so funny? He asked in annoyance as he saw some random chunin with a Konoha headband. Oh, nothing, but I can practically feel your negative thoughts from here. If I'd have to place a bet, I'd say that it has something to do with your teammate? Perhaps the fact that the once weak dead last is now stronger than the rookie of the year? He asked tauntingly. Sasuke glared at the chunin hatefully as his body tensed. That fool is not stronger than me. He snarled, but the chunin just smirked condescendingly, much to Sasuke's ire. Oh, Sasuke-kun, that's where you are wrong. I'll admit that I too was surprised by Naruto-kun's newfound strength. He chunin taunted. Shut up, he is not stronger than me. Sasuke repeated but grunted in pain when he felt something prick his neck. The chunin in front of him smirked as he disappeared in a cloud of smoke. He looked to his side and saw the same chunin that was in front of him earlier biting into his neck. What the? Sasuke said as the chunin backed away. He turned around clutching his neck as the chunin turned away. Think of it as a little gift, the chunin said as he turned a corner. Sasuke ran towards the corner but saw that the man was gone. What was that? Who was that? Sasuke said as his vision began to blur. Sooner or later you'll seek me out. Until then, enjoy my little parting gift. He heard someone whisper before his vision blacked out. End flashback. I found a method that will help you, but you'll have to wait. You cannot allow this curse to take over. Kakashi added before leaving. Just great. Sasuke thought sarcastically. This mark reacts to my chakra. Unless I want to get disqualified, I'll have to be careful. Sasuke thought as he remembered what happened after he recovered from that mystery chunin's attack. The mark spread and this strange dark feeling took over him. His instincts took over, causing him to attack anyone who showed any signs of strength. Begin, Hayate said as the two genin engaged in battle. Naruto noticed Sasuke's opponent, Yoroi, make a hand seal before his right hand began to glow. I wonder what that is. Naruto thought curiously before frowning as he noticed Sasuke's sloppy performance. During his time at the tower, he avoided his teammates whenever possible, so he was unaware of the attack on Sasuke. Weird, his movements are off and he's not even using his Sharingan. He thought to himself. Ever since he unlocked his Kekai Genkai, Sasuke always used it. I knew he should have quit while he had the chance. Kakashi-sensei, you have to do something. Sakura said, wincing when Sasuke received a particularly hard blow. You know how Sasuke is. There was no way he would just walk away. Kakashi said in a casual tone, but hiding the concern he felt as he watched Yoroi grab onto Sasuke. From the looks of it, he had the ability to absorb his opponent's chakra. He looked at his other genin and saw Sakura's face etched in worry, but Naruto had a look of indifference. Mistaking that look as confidence for his teammate, Kakashi eyes smiled. Besides, have some faith in Sasuke. Look at Naruto. He isn't worried about him. Hearing this caused Naruto to scoff. I'm afraid you're mistaken, Kakashi. It's not that I have faith in Sasuke, it's just that I don't care whether he wins or not. He explained, causing them to frown. Naruto, that's not something you say about your teammates. Kakashi scolded. He's right. How could you say that about Sasuke-kun? Sakura added, glaring at Naruto, who shrugged it off. Like this. I don't care if he wins or loses. The same could be said about you too. He answered casually. Naruto, what's gotten into you? You would have never said something like about your team. Kakashi asked with narrowed eyes. He knew that his genin could argue and get on each other's nerves, but he didn't think things would turn out like this. Although he didn't know about Sasuke and Sakura leaving Naruto alone against an opponent that outclassed him to save themselves. Sasuke and Sakura weren't going to be telling anyone anytime soon, and Naruto just didn't care anymore. They made their choice and so did Naruto. Kakashi stared at him for a while before turning back to the match just in time to see Sasuke kick Yoroi in the air. Shi Renden, Lion's combo. Sasuke said as he hit Yoroi with a series of combos before finishing it with a devastating reverse heel kick. Winner Uchiha Sasuke. Hayate announced after checking to see if Yoroi could continue. He did it. He won. Sakura cheered with a bright smile. Medics came to escort both Yoroi and Sasuke away, but Kakashi signed to the arena stating that he would take care of Sasuke. The medics looked hesitant but eventually relented and the student and teacher disappeared in a swirl of leaves. Where are they going? Sakura asked with a frown. Who cares? Naruto asked dully. What is with you? Ever since we got back from the second exam you've been a real jerk. Sakura shouted, getting frustrated with Naruto's new attitude. However, she flinched under the glare Naruto threw at her. His eyes held so much anger that she couldn't help but release a frightened whimper. Is she fucking serious? They abandoned me and left me for dead and she has the nerve to ask what's with me? Naruto thought furiously. However, he felt a calming presence in his mind that helped relax him. Calm down, Naruto-kun. Just ignore them for now. They aren't worth all this stress. Shirayuki said in a soothing, gentle voice. Naruto took a deep breath and released it. Thank you, Shirayuki-chan. Naruto thanked, feeling the tension leave his body. Anytime. The Ice Zanpakuto spirit said before the mental link between the two was cut. Releasing a sigh, Naruto turned to Sakura. Haruno, I am not in the mood to deal with you right now, so please do the both of us a favor and shut up. Naruto said in a tone as cold as the ice his Zanpakuto wielded. Unused to and slightly afraid, Sakura nodded meekly before turning towards the screen where they would announce the next fight. She silently prayed that Kakashi would return soon so she wasn't alone with Naruto. Aburame Shino vs Abume Zaku. What a shame. I would rather face that blonde puck that did this to me. Zaku said, nodding towards Naruto, who smirked at him. Shino said nothing as he stared down his opponent. The match was short but pretty good. Naruto had to admit that Zaku's will to fight despite his injured arms was impressive. Turns out the casts he wore around them were for show and he could still move them. When he was about to unleash an air blast, his arms exploded. Turns out Shino clogged the air tubes with his insects. With no way to escape, the air destroyed Zaku's arms from the inside. As soon as the match was over, Kakashi reappeared. Sakura began to bombard him with questions about Sasuke and Naruto ignored him, looking at the screen hoping his match would be soon. Kankuro vs Tsurugi Mitsumi. Naruto was a bit interested in this match. The only other Suna genin he interacted with was Gaara, so he was a bit curious to see how they fought. Like the previous match, it was rather short. Mitsumi started with a jutsu that allowed his body to stretch and bend his limbs as if they were rubber. He quickly got though Kankuro's defense and began to strangle him. Mitsumi gave Kankuro the chance to surrender, but he refused, so he proceeded to snap the Suna genin's neck. Unfortunately for Mitsumi, it turned out that Kankuro was nothing more than a puppet, while the real one was hidden in the cloth on its back. Various blades appeared on the puppet's body, impaling Mitsumi as he squeezed the life out of his now dead opponent. Kugetsu no Jutsu, puppet technique, huh? First time I've ever seen something like that. Pretty interesting actually. Naruto said to himself before looking at the screen. He couldn't help but release a groan. Something wrong, Naruto? Kakashi asked, noticing the annoyance of the blonde. Out of everyone here, those two had to fight each other. He complained as he pointed at the screen. The others heard Naruto's statement, looked at the screen. Haruno Sakura vs Yamanaka Ino. God, this is gonna suck. He complained, causing Sakura to get annoyed. What is that supposed to mean? She demanded, but Naruto ignored her. Huffing in irritation, Sakura stomped towards the arena. Naruto watched with uninterested eyes as the two battled. From the looks of things, it would appear that neither girl has taken their training seriously since they graduated from the academy. Not only that, but he had to listen to them go on and on about how they wouldn't lose Sasuke's heart to the other. Although it looked like Ino took her training a bit more seriously than Sakura, because she was able to use her hair like a trap and then used her Shintenshin no Jutsu, mind transfer technique, and forced Sakura to forfeit the match. Called it. I knew it would suck. Naruto muttered to himself, but Kakashi still heard it and frowned. Seriously, what happened to Naruto? This was not the same blonde-haired knucklehead he knew before the exam started. Tenten vs Temari. Now this was clearly a one-sided battle in Naruto's mind. He was impressed with Tenten's skills with weapons, but it was all for naught. No matter what she did, it had no effect on Temari. It turned out that Temari was a wind user who used that particular element to deflect any and all weapons that Tenten unleashed. The match ended when Temari pulled out her giant fan and swung it, creating a large whirlwind that sent Tenten flying. Add that to the weapons that were caught in the wind cutting her. Well, Naruto could tell that she would be sore for some time. He had to admit that these Suna genin were talented, but he frowned as he watched Temari carelessly toss Tenten's unconscious form. Tenten was a talented kunoichi and fought with everything she had. She didn't deserve that kind of disrespect. Luckily her teammate Rock Lee caught her and brought her back to the balcony. Nara Shikamaru vs Tsuchi Kin. Shikamaru lazily made his way to the field as he complained about having to fight a girl. If he were honest with himself, Naruto thought that Shikamaru would lose. From what he remembered, Shikamaru was always lazy and unmotivated. But it turns out though that Shikamaru was a lot smarter than Naruto gave him credit for. The lazy Konoha genin mostly played defense, allowing his opponent get overconfident. What she didn't know was that Shikamaru was subtly manipulating her so that she was backed up near the wall. After using her own wires against her, Shikamaru was able to trap her in his shadow. After that they exchanged a few words, engaged in a game of chicken involving shuriken. Shikamaru leaned back and thanks to his shadow, Kin followed his example. The only problem was that only one of them was too close to the wall. The end result? Kin banging her head against the wall with enough force to knock herself out. I always thought that Shikamaru was just a lazy ass, but he's a lot smarter than he looks. Naruto thought to himself, impressed. True, I guess this is one of those examples of not judging a book by its cover. Shirayuki agreed. Naruto nodded before turning to the screen and couldn't stop the grin from appearing. Uzumaki Naruto vs Inuzuka Kiba. Oh hell yeah, it's about time. Naruto mentally cheered. It looks like it's your time to shine. Good luck, Naruto-kun, Shirayuki said as Naruto made his way to the arena. Oh man, it looks like we lucked out, huh, Akamaru? Facing the dead last, talk about an easy win, Kiba said with a confident grin as his faithful companion barked in agreement. I'm not the same as before, Kiba. Get ready because I'm going to kick your ass, Naruto warned as he placed his hand on the hilt of his sword, but he didn't draw it. Hearing this, Kiba couldn't help but scoff. That's some big talk from someone who couldn't even make a simple bunshin. He taunted, trying to rile Naruto up, but frowned when he saw Naruto's calm face. Shrugging it off, he got into a stance. Begin, Hayate shouted, commencing the match. Kiba was about to move but was surprised to see Naruto right in front of him. His eyes widened when he saw his opponent draw his sword. Ducking to dodge the coming slash, he smirked only for it to be wiped off when he received a knee to the face. He staggered a bit and glared at Naruto only to pale when he felt steel against his neck. Surrender, Naruto ordered as he lightly pressed his sword against Kiba's neck. What the hell? Kiba thought in shock. Never in a million years would he have guessed Naruto was capable of this. It all happened so fast. Hell, he barely blinked and he found himself with a sword at his throat. I said surrender, Naruto repeated only to wince in pain when he felt something bite his wrist. Seeing his master in danger, Akamaru lunged at the arm holding the Zanpakuto and chomped down. Seeing this, Kiba quickly jumped back as he launched a few shuriken as Akamaru backed away. Naruto mentally cursed, realizing that he forgot about Akamaru as he blocked the incoming shuriken with his Zanpakuto. However, the attack served its purpose and gave Kiba enough time to prepare his attack. Shikyaku no Jutsu, all-fours technique, he said as he dropped on all fours and charged at Naruto at an accelerated rate. Naruto had just finished deflecting the shuriken, so he was not prepared for the elbow he received to the gut that sent him flying into the wall. Ha, only one hit and he's down for the count. I knew he was a loser. Kiba cheered, thinking that he already won. I'll admit that he surprised me in the beginning, but in the end he wasn't good enough, Kurenai stated. She read the files on Naruto and was confident that Kiba could defeat him. Like she said though, she truly was surprised by Naruto's first move but thought that it was due to Kiba's overconfidence. I figured this would happen. No way could Naruto beat Kiba, Ino said as she watched them. I wouldn't be so sure, Shikamaru said, getting the attention of his teammates. What do you mean, Shikamaru? Choji asked his best friend. Troublesome, did you two forget that he took on the Auto Genin during the second exam? He said, causing them to widen their eyes. They had completely forgotten how Naruto took them on by himself. Proctor-san called the match. He's not getting up after that one, Kiba said, but Hayate remained silent. Kiba frowned, wondering why he wasn't declared the winner when he heard Akamaru barking. He turned to his friend before looking back towards Naruto. His eyes widened when the dust from Naruto's impact cleared and Naruto himself stood up. Nice attack, but if that's the best you can do, then you have no chance of beating me, he said. Recovering from his shock, Kiba only scoffed. That's some pretty big talk coming from you, loser, but if you want me to do my best, then here it is, he said as he dug into his pocket, pulling out a military rations pill. Eat up, Akamaru, Kiba said, tossing the pill to Akamaru. The small dog ate it and Naruto watched as his once white fur turned red. Naruto-kun, I sense an increase in the dog's energy. Do you want to use my Shikai? Shirayuki asked, but Naruto mentally shook his head. As much as I want to show off your abilities, I want to keep it a secret and use it as a trump card for as long as I can, he answered, getting a nod from the Zanpakuto spirit. Jujin Bushin, beast human clone, Kiba said as a cloud of smoke consumed Akamaru. Once the smoke cleared, it revealed an exact copy of Kiba. You're going down, Naruto. Alright, I've had enough of your mouth, and I've had enough with being underestimated, Naruto said, glaring at the two Kibas as he raised his arm. Bakudo number 4. Heinawa, crawling rope. Everyone watched as a strange yellow energy surrounded Naruto's hand before he threw it at one of the Kibas. The energy took the form of a rope and entangled itself around one of the shocked Kibas. He tried to get free, but it proved futile. Now get out of the way. Hado number 1. Show, thrust, Naruto said, pointing his finger at his trapped opponent. He gathered enough energy before unleashing it. Once it hit its target, the trapped Kiba was hit with a strong force that sent it back a few feet before hitting the ground. Akamaru, the still standing Kiba shouted, revealing that Akamaru was the one on the receiving end of Naruto's attacks. Kiba looked at the still disguised Akamaru, who was struggling to get up. The strange yellow rope thing was proving to be an obstacle before growling at Naruto. What did you do to him? What did I do? Why should I explain to my opponent what I did when it doesn't matter in the end because I'm going to win? Naruto said with a shrug. We'll see about that. Suga, tunneling fang, Kiba shouted as he charged at Naruto. He leapt into the air and began spinning at such a high speed that he resembled a drill. If Naruto was worried, he didn't show it. Instead, he lazily raised his hand. Bakudo number 8. Seiki, repulse, Naruto said as a light blue orb appeared in the front of his outstretched hand. Naruto stood completely still as Kiba's drill-like form approached. Everyone expected him to get blown back by the attack, but when he connected with the strange blue orb in Naruto's hand, Kiba was pushed away as if hit by some powerful force and bounced off the ground. Is that all? Naruto asked, bored as he watched Kiba get up on shaky legs. What is that, Kakashi-sensei? Sakura asked, never seen something like that before. I don't know, Kakashi admitted, surprising her. Naruto has been using some interesting techniques, but I've never heard of them before. A few feet away, Neji had his Byakugan activated as he watched the match with a thoughtful frown. At first he wasn't going to pay attention to this match because he has only heard derogatory things about Naruto, so he never considered him a threat, but that wasn't the case right now. He activated his Byakugan to study Naruto's techniques since he could be a future opponent, but he was confused by what he saw. Sensing his teammates' confusion, Lee asked, "Is something the matter, Neji-kun?" Neji was silent before speaking. There's something about these techniques he's using. Or more precisely, there's something off with his chakra, he explained, gaining the other's attention. What do you mean? Guy asked inquisitively. For once, Neji's usual cool, confident look was replaced by one of confusion. It's almost like he doesn't have chakra, he said, shocking them. What do you mean he doesn't have chakra? What about all those weirdo moves he's been using? How can he do those things without chakra? Ino asked loudly, but Neji shook his head. I said it's almost like he doesn't have chakra. I don't know if it's something else entirely different or just some unique property of his chakra, but something is different. I've never seen something like it before, so I can really explain it, he explained. Kakashi frowned as he looked back at Naruto. Naruto, just what were you up to during those 10 days? What the hell was that? Kiba asked in frustration. How could he have such trouble against the dead last? Like I said before, I don't have to explain my techniques to you. Besides, I think it's about time I end this. Naruto said plainly. Who do you think you are? Stop talking as if you've already won. Kiba shouted in anger, but Naruto ignored him. Ye Lord, mask of blood and flesh, all creation, flutter of wings, ye who bears the name of man. Inferno and pandemonium, the sea barrier surges, march on to the south. He chanted as the audience looked confused, wondering what he was saying. Shikyaku no jutsu, all force technique. Kiba shouted as he charged at Naruto high speed. However, that proved to be a mistake because once he was close enough, Naruto unleashed his attack, and unfortunately for the Inuzuka, he was too close to dodge. Hado number 31. Shakuho, red fire cannon. He said as a red orb of energy appeared in his hand. He aimed and unleashed the attack, hitting Kiba square in the chest, the impact sending him flying. The attack was hot enough to completely burn his jacket off, showing that Kiba was covered in multiple burn marks. He received that attack at point-blank range. There's no way he can continue. Naruto said, snapping his fingers. The strange rope of energy that trapped Akamaru disappeared, and the white dog immediately ran to his master's prone form. Hayate looked at Kiba and saw that he wasn't getting up anytime soon. Winner, Uzumaki Naruto. Congratulations on the win, Naruto-kun. He heard Shirayuki say in his mind as he made his way back to the stands. Thanks, sorry that I didn't really use you. He apologized, but Shirayuki just shook it off. It's alright, I understand that you want to keep some things hidden for another day. She reassured. Thanks, but don't worry. Pretty soon you and I will kick some major ass together. He promised, earning a light giggle from her. I look forward to it. After his short conversation, he returned to his spot on the balcony and leaned against the wall, waiting for the next match. If he noticed the stares he was receiving from the others around him, then he made no indication. It was Kakashi who broke the silence. Well, Naruto, that was quite a match, he said with an eye smile. Thanks, was the only thing Naruto said. So, care to explain those new moves of yours? Kakashi asked, trying to get some information. The others leaned in, curious as well. No, I'm good. Naruto simply stated, using them to face fault. Why not Baka? Sakura said, annoyed. Ever since the exams started, something happened to her teammate and she did not like his new attitude. I'd rather not explain my skills in front of the competition, Naruto said. Not like I'm going to explain anything to them willingly. They never gave a damn about me before, but now that I actually have some strength, they're suddenly interested? He mentally scoffed. I suppose that makes sense. Kakashi sighed, letting the matter drop despite how curious he was. The others realized they weren't going to learn anything, so they turned to the screen. Hyuga Hinata vs Hyuga Neji. This matchup caused Naruto to raise an eyebrow. From what he remembered about Hinata, she was a shy girl who was always blushing up a storm for some reason who couldn't fathom. Neji, on the other hand, he knew nothing about the boy personally, but seeing the way he carried himself, Naruto could tell he was arrogant. He looked at the two next combatants and frowned. Neji looked sure of himself, if that condescending smirk on his face was anything to go by. Hinata, on the other hand, looked like she was about to pass out. She looked so nervous. He never really interacted with the girl, but when he did, she was always kind, so he decided to boost her confidence. He waited until she walked by him on her way down to the arena. Hinata, good luck, kick his ass, he whispered. Hinata looked at him surprised as her face turned red, but offered a small smile and nodded in thanks. Kurenai saw this brief interaction and smiled as well. She was well aware of the girl's crush on the oblivious blonde. The two genin faced each other, waiting for the signal to start. Hinata felt a little encouraged by Naruto's few words, so she put her best game face on, but Neji just sneered at her. Despite her best efforts, Hinata didn't stand a chance. From the beginning, Neji was in control. It started with a verbal assault on her, saying how she was nothing but a failure and a disappointment to the Hyuga clan. This seemed to have struck a nerve with her, but she was able to preserve and fight back. Then he allowed her to believe she was winning with her Jukin strike, but it turned out Neji had been cutting off her Tenketsu points from the beginning, make her attacks useless. But despite that, Hinata kept on fighting until she received a Jukin strike in the chest courtesy of Neji. But the thing that really set Neji off was when Hinata was able to get back on her feet and look at the older Hyuga in pity. She said that she actually pitied him, stating that he was suffering from the clan. Neji's eyes flashed with anger as he charged at her, intent on ending her, but before he could hit her he was stopped by multiple Konoha. After that, Neji was declared the winner, but Hinata collapsed to the ground severely injured. The medics had to rush in and take her to the infirmary. Naruto glared at Neji with anger. He was an orphan and the thing he wanted most was family, so to see the way Neji treated Hinata angered him greatly. What an asshole, how could he do that to her, he thought irately. Calm down, Naruto-kun. Don't let your anger get the best of you, you wouldn't want to do anything rash. Shirayuki warned in a gentle voice, trying to soothe him. Naruto took a deep breath and released it, calming him down a bit. He was very grateful he had Shirayuki now to help him when he needed it. Thank you, he said. Anytime, she said before the screen flashed and the next two fighters were revealed. Gaara vs Rock Lee. Now this match got Naruto's attention. Shirayuki-chan, make sure to pay attention to this match. I don't want to miss a thing. Naruto said. Alright, but is there any particular reasoning? She asked curiously. I had a brief meeting with him before the exam started. He's interested in fighting me. I haven't seen him fight before, but he's a strong one. Naruto explained. Very well, Shirayuki said before looking at the match through Naruto's eyes. Naruto had to admit that he was very impressed with the match from Lee's high taijutsu level and speed against Gaara's control over sand. Despite how fast he was, Lee could not land a hit that was able to get through Gaara's defensive sand wall. Deciding to kick things up a notch, Lee removed the ankle weights he wore and Naruto's eyes widened to comic proportions when he saw the weights create large craters when they hit the ground. With this newfound speed he was able to bypass Gaara's sand and land a few solid hits, but Gaara revealed another trick. He wore a shell of sand acting like a second defense, making Lee's attacks harmless. That sand of his is pretty annoying, Naruto thought to himself as he watched Lee run in a circle around Gaara, picking up speed. Lee decided to make his move by charging at Gaara and kicking him multiple times into the air. He then wrapped Gaara with his bandages and drove him into the ground with the Omate Renge, front lotus. Thinking that he won, Lee was surprised that it was not Gaara he drove into the ground but a sand shell of him. Gaara appeared behind him, a sadistic grin on his face. He proceeded to punish Lee, slamming him into the walls with his sand. After a while, Lee got his second wind and began to speed up and was able to dodge Gaara's attacks. Lee then proceeded to open 3 more gates, the Gate of Healing, the Gate of Life and the Gate of Pain. Lee's skin turned red and looked like his body was about to burst. He took off like a rocket at Gaara, who was not able to defend against Lee's supersonic speed. Damn, his strength just skyrocketed, Naruto thought watching this match continue. Everyone watched as Lee battered Gaara in midair. The sand armor was useless and Gaara felt immense pain for the first time in his life. Lee decided to end this and opened the 5th gate, the Gate of Limit. He vanished and reappeared in front of Gaara. He sent him toward the ground, but he was suddenly jerked back to a charging Lee. Gritting his teeth, Lee hit Gaara with an Ura Renge, reverse lotus, and Gaara hit the ground hard, creating a large cloud of dust. Lee was lying on the ground panting for air as the dust cleared. Everyone was shocked to see Gaara lying on the ground, his sand armor having multiple cracks. As it turned out, he transformed the guard on his back to sand and used it to cushion the fall. Gaara looked worn out but raised his hand as he commanded his sand. Naruto couldn't help but wince after hearing Lee's scream of pain as the sand crushed his left arm and leg. Lee fell to the ground unconscious, but Gaara wasn't done. He sent another wave of sand to finish him off, but luckily Guy appeared between them and blocked the attack. After Gaara was declared the winner, he returned all the sand to his guard and walked towards the balcony while Lee was sent to the infirmary. I knew Gaara was strong, but shit, is he really just a genin? Naruto thought, a little disturbed after the match. He will be a difficult opponent in these exams. Shirayuki agreed. The final match was between the remaining Auto Genin Dosu and Choji. Despite his best efforts, Choji was easily defeated by Dosu, who used his sound jutsu to knock out the Akamichi. With the matches now over, the Hokage stood from his seat and called for the genin that won to stand in the arena. Once they were lined up, he took a moment to look over them before speaking. First of all, I wish to congratulate those of you who have advanced. Now I will explain the final stage of the exams that will take place in 1 month's time. This will give you the opportunity to learn a new trick or two. Sarutobi said as Anko stepped forward with a box. Alright, each of you will pick up a number from this box. Whatever number you get will determine who you will face in the final stage. She announced. The genin walked up to her one by one and got their numbers. I have number 8, Dosu stated as he looked at the slip of paper.